All right. Hello, Mecox. Hello, Dave Smith fans. Hello, the Libertarian in Chief fans. And hello, Karen Ann Harlow's fans. Really appreciate you guys joining us. And huge thanks to Dave Smith, Todd Hagopian, and Karen Ann Harlow's for, letting us stream through their Twitters. We're coming at you from the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus Facebook page, Twitter, YouTube, as well as Karen Ann and Todd and Dave's Twitter. Really appreciate the platform. Thank you very much for taking human action with us. And, we are kicking off the live stream here for the Reno Reset Money Bomb. And as you can see, we've got a ticker live right here. We've raised $17,862 since Friday for the Reno Reset. This is all money for delegate support. There is a nationwide mobilization effort right now to get all of our delegates out. And I've got with me Lainey Houston, who is our marketing officer. Lainey, thank you very much for joining us. We're just going to give some quick intros before we get the show started with Shane Hazel and Larry Sharpe. Oh, you're muted. Gotcha.
Amazing. There we go.
There we go.
Thanks for that. Debugging it live. I love it. Yeah, thanks, Mike. And I know we were just talking about this right before the stream. This has been insane this weekend. We realized that on Friday, we raised more money in a single day than we ever have in Mises history, and we're still going. And I think we're actually going to try to blow that out of the water today. Really excited for what we're going to do. Should we tell people what we were thinking about the pledges here?
We can tease it out. There'll be more of you as we go along later tonight.
Exactly.
But we got some plans. We got some things to tease out. And remember, if you're donating through the lpmc.us/Reno Reset button there, you are entering for a chance to have a mystery VIP experience that we will reveal at a later time. And you can do that in person at Reno, or you can join us virtually for that. So, submit to the intrigue. Hit that button and help us out. Help us get as many of these delegates that need help. I know you guys are feeling the inflation. You're feeling the fuel prices, and so are other people. So we're gonna do everything that we can to help our people.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you everyone to donate. You can do that at lpmc.us/Reno Reset all throughout the night, and your donation will appear live here. And please help us get the word out by spreading the stream as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, Lainey, thank you. We will see more of you later tonight. And everyone, Lainey here is our marketing director. The success of this is in large part to Lainey here, as well as some of our folks in Texas who have done money bombs themselves. This is our first time doing anything like this, so this has been absolutely incredible. And Lainey, thank you very much.
Sweet. Is that our first donation of the night?
That was our first donation. So
amazing.
So everybody, I don't know if you guys heard that, but everyone who donates, there will be that little bell there. So, we want it to sound like Kansas wind chimes in hurricane season or tornado season here tonight.
Awesome. And shout out to Grace for the first donation of the night. That's awesome.
Thank you, Grace.
Great.
All right. Well, we will see you later, Lainey.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to pull up the radical Shane Hazel. And I know Larry Sharpe is in the car, so I will try to get him back. I don't know if he is in the New York tunnel or something like that, but we've got the radical Shane Hazel. You can go to radicalpod.com to subscribe to his podcast. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Shane.
What's happening, brother? It's good to be with you, man.
You as well. So, I've noticed recently you've really gone through, I don't want to say a branding change, but you've gone through a little bit of a change in your focus. I see a lot of focus on Bitcoin and, cryptocurrency, but specifically Bitcoin in your messaging. You've gone real hard there. What's going on? What's causing the shift here?
Man, I've been orange pilled here, man. And that's the thing is it's so cool to be, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. The Mises Caucus, hats off to you, Mike, for putting this all together. I mean, look at where we're at. We're like on the doorstep of Reno, and everything is about to absolutely start to take shape. And I'm excited. First of all, go out there and donate lpmc.us/Reno Reset.
Thank you, JR, for that $300 donation.
But Bitcoin, man, Bitcoin is, I think, one of the issues that once, especially the Austrians get a hold of it, they're just going to be like, well, here's our vehicle. Let's go. It's the hardest money on earth, man. And, it qualifies, obviously, for all the aspects of being saleable over time, space, proof of work, and obviously scales. So for us as libertarians, especially the guys that hold up Ron Paul and the revolution, this Austrian revolution that's going on in the Bitcoin space is, I think it's no less than what we've been waiting for as libertarians to really, kind of put all the bullshit aside and get super laser focused in terms of going forward, because this is it, man. Like, this is the paradigm change. We're in it. We got probably less than 5 years left. And I've got to tell you, and the more you guys know about Bitcoin, the more you're going to get excited. It is the hope. It's that, in this world of chaos and darkness and everything else that's going on, this is what's going to take the Mises Caucus and the libertarians and kind of meld them together with some of the smartest people on earth and just push this thing into overdrive.
Yeah, I think the Bitcoin and community is one of the most ripe ones in existence for the Libertarian Party, and I don't even want to say the Libertarian message. A lot of them already have that, and that's why they're Bitcoin people to begin with. There's a lot of people who are Bitcoin rich who they found out the problems of fiat currency, and they found out the issues of inflation and the Federal Reserve as a result of that. Ron Paul, I mean, that's certainly how it happened for me, and I remember hearing about Bitcoin probably around 2013 for the first time. And, I got very interested, wasn't an early adopter, but there was a whole bunch of Austrians and Ron Paul fans and people like that who got in early and are now whales in the Bitcoin scene. And, those are the kind of people who should be in the Libertarian Party, and a lot of them aren't. Why do you think they aren't in the Libertarian Party?
I think they're more focused, honestly, and that's the thing is, I think these guys, I was down at Bitcoin 2022 a few weeks ago, and the focus from this crowd is like they don't really need, like, they talk politics all the time, but they don't talk about monikers, they don't talk about labels, they don't talk about any of that kind of stuff. It is a single track mind going forward. And you're right, libertarians and Bitcoiners, man, you guys absolutely made for each other. And to kind of be that bridge to help, combine these giant Venn diagrams that we've got to, obviously empower the Austrian side of pushing this thing through. I don't know, man. It's just a humbling spot to be in. And I'll tell you, the shift, until you can talk about something, I think from, a point where you can teach it, it's just one of those things where you gotta sit back and you got to be humble enough to be the student until you get it right. So this is why I've had this really this kind of this radical shift in the space, and the warm reception, just melding these two worlds together is nothing less than, like, I don't know, kind of, it's very hippy dippy, it's kind of spiritual, it's it's obviously economics, it's everything, that when we all get together and you found your tribe, like, that's who this is, man. So if I can turn people onto it and help them get started and feel a little bit more secure with something that they can't touch, trust me, I was one of those guys. Happy to do it.
Got to give some shout outs here to Scott, Charlie, Libertarianism at Night. I'm not gonna lie, man. This bell thing is something that we added last minute, and this is like a little dopamine hit. I'm really having a kick out of this. This is awesome. But
I'm sitting here trying to keep my train of thought. It's thinking about that guy that was talking shit to Mike Tyson the other night on the plane. I was like, man, I bet that guy wish he had a bell.
Well, you know what? Mike Tyson's probably this close to being on his way to Bitcoin himself, because he just got caught with a copy of Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. So
yeah, it's crazy what's happening.
It really is, man. And so that brings me to my next question. You're running for governor down there in Georgia, and you did really great in your last race, and but that was before the COVID regime. When you ran. Now this is post-COVID. Well, I don't want to say post, but largely post-COVID regime. I've got to have to restart the question now because we got Larry Sharpe with us, and I absolutely want his input in there. Larry, thank you for joining us. Sacrificing your attention to the road. I love it.
No, I'm not driving, but I'm in this area. Cell service.
I can tell you're in northern New York because your connection is terrible. You're probably in the country. Yeah, you froze. Well, we'll come back. I'll restart the question. Basically, what I was asking is, Shane, we are now in a post-COVID world messaging wise, you know.
Right.
How has COVID affected how you're approaching the race? Is there more of an appetite for a third party this time around for the Libertarian candidate? And are you seeing that windfall, or, you know, how is it looking for you?
Yeah, there's a lot more buzz this time around, and that's, you know, having had, you know, some name recognition from last year, and really kind of announcing on the heels that I was going to seek the nomination for governor down here, on the heels when everybody was so upset from the Republican Party. It was one of those things that it made some news. So yeah, it's going well. There's, you know, I got to get better. I got to get back out on the road, but it's one of those things where this time around, people are done. You know, the three things that I'm really focused on right now is freedom, jobs, and energy, all pushed through, you know, a Bitcoin economy and into the Fed, getting the separation of money and state, which I think if anybody has, you know, is realistic about it, like they're seeing the economic problems we have with inflation, the fact that we're probably well into the 20% if you go by 1980 standards right now, and they're done. They're tired of the instability. They're tired of the charade that is the entire government. You've got more people saying yes, both Democrats and Republicans are crooked as hell, and I'm not going to vote for either one of them. So I'll tell you, if you're thinking about it out there in you know, looking at a run, it is a golden opportunity to get out there and spread the message for liberty and freedom.
There's just no way I'm going to be able to give the shout outs without being an absolute douche host to the people talking. So thank you to all the people who are giving. Justin, Travis, you know, we've already crossed $1,000.
See, and there you go. You had Ken Poulin come in. That guy used to be a representative for the Republicans down here in Georgia, and now he's joined the LP, man. And I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're doing. It's amazing.
Yeah, man, and we're already over $1,000. We're at 19. The goal for the weekend was 21,000, so I'm hoping we can blow through that. We absolutely blew through our initial goal of $7,000, and again, this is all delegate support. So, you know, if you want that Reno reset and you want it to be as big and as loud of a statement as possible, ring those bells, and we really appreciate it. But yeah, so are you seeing a difference in like your reach? Like, would you say you have more name recognition? Because I know you did that interview with Rand Paul, and that was, let's say, very interesting. You know, and he kind of towed the line a little bit, which is a little disappointing. But you know,
the reach is kind of nuts, because you got like people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know, who is probably at least one of the biggest names in the Republican Party, right? And she's talking about, you know, me in a number of different cases in public, whether it's on Tim Pool's show or, you know, other, you know, pretty big organizations saying, hey, you know, the Republicans need to listen to Shane Hazel. And that's something that, you know, I don't think I've ever heard. And I'll tell you, you know, if you're looking at things like this, if you can get Republicans now, especially somebody who's a congresswoman or congressman, to come out and say, I'm breaking ranks with the Republicans, you've got national news overnight. And it's, I mean, we have such an opportunity ahead of us, guys. Like, donate, and get people out there, because what we're going to do in terms of messaging with the LPMC is going to break everything. And I mean, we've got, I don't know, Mike, you know better than everybody else. You've got all these different platforms that are now becoming extremely not only libertarian friendly, but especially Mises Caucus friendly. And that message is, I don't know, man, it is burning through the country right now, it feels like.
It's honestly the thing that excites me the most. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Grace. I'll give you the shout out. If you're on Facebook, join Libertarianism at Night. It's a great, relaxed Facebook group, not run by absolute trolls and the worst scum imaginable on the internet, and has great conversation. But yeah, you're right. Like that's the thing that excites me the most about what's going on is I truly think that we're in the middle of a truly unprecedented time when it comes to our ability to get the message to people, because for the first time in history, the dissemination of ideas and the flow of information is not going through the corporate media. The ratings are down. I mean, CNN Plus, their streaming app, they just made it 3 weeks before they canceled you know, that service. The only people who are watching dinosaur media are dinosaurs themselves, and there's just not going to be any changing them. Where people are disseminating their information now is the podcast. It is Tim Pool. It is Joe Rogan. It is, Patrick Bet-David. It's this whole patchwork of podcasts that when you put them all together have millions and millions of people listening to them. And, we are this close to most of them. I mean, I've been on Tim Pool. I believe you've been on Tim Pool, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tim Pool's editor-in-chief is, here's a little announcement for everyone. Tim Pool's editor-in-chief is coming to Reno to cover the convention. I text with the producer over there and give updates on what's going on with the party, and we got all this attention. Joe Rogan is, I'll talk with Dave about this a little later, but people don't realize how good of friends Joe Rogan and Dave Smith are and how close we are to the largest platform in the entire world and how exciting that is. Look at what happened when Dr. Robert Malone and all of them went on Rogan. It went absolutely viral and just completely smashed the narrative of the vaccines. And what happened, not long after, you're starting to see the vaccine mandates recede and all of that sort of thing. What is the state of the COVID regime in Georgia? Is there any remnants left? Is there any, mask mandates, anything like that?
Yeah, there's still people running around in masks, but for the most part, this whole thing that happened in 2020, in March, we went in to lockdown down here, and people haven't forgotten, man. I mean, absolutely had their lives destroyed, whether it was their business, whether it was the job they were in, or having family members die in hospitals or whatever, where they couldn't access or and be close to them as they pass away. Like, people are still reeling from this, and they're super pissed off. So to take that and push it into the the right direction and give it what it needs in terms of the positivity, the empathy, which a lot of times we as libertarians don't do well. I think we've kind of found that and crossed that Rubicon where we see it, we know it, we can sit there and really articulate this because we all lived it. I mean, let's face it, most people in the Libertarian Party are the guys and girls that go out and bust their ass, whether it's in their own job, whether it's, going to work every day and earning what we think as an honest living and everything. And for those people to get shellacked, over and over and over, to have, the requirements change over and over and over, and really to have a government just usurp, everything that we were ever told it was in the first place. I think people are just, they're done. And to see it flush out, whether it's in the polls or media or wherever, I don't think there's, any reason right now that your messaging shouldn't be all about getting out and obviously, taking these guys to task for what happened in 2020. It's just, there's no comparison right now.
Absolutely. All right. We got Larry back. Let's see. Maybe he got a little closer to the city. Let's see if we can hear him. Larry, maybe try audio only if we start having trouble.
All righty, I'll go audio. I don't mind. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. Yes, no, I am getting close to the city. You're right. Apologize, guys. Up here in this area, it can be tough. So, yes.
So I guess I'm going to kind of circle back on some of the questions I already asked Shane and kind of get your take on it. One thing that's really interesting, because you're in New York, and that's obviously dominated by New York City. That was one of the hardest hit places by the COVID regime. That's where you had the nursing home. Well, one of the states that had the nursing home scandals. I had that happened here in PA too.
Yep.
And obviously you've already built some name recognition from your previous run.
Yep.
What are you seeing between then and now in terms of receptiveness to you as a candidate, and what we have to offer on messaging with the COVID regime, and are people starting to clamor for it a little bit more?
I gotta tell you, the hardest thing in my state is that we're about 2.5 or almost 3 to 1 Democrat to Republican. So the only way for me to make real impact is to get Democrats to vote for me. And the advantage is they do. About 25% of the people who voted for me last time were Democrats, and more do. So I've got to do that while still at the same time, being able to, keep the right happy also, and to be libertarian. And it can be challenging. Yesterday, I was literally at the equivalent of a Trump rally in the morning. It was a rally in Albany. And then right after that, I went to a CBD shop. So I got both sides, right? Then this morning, I'm off at a gun show. And then I'm at some ritzy winery. So I got to bounce back and forth a lot and try to be able to keep both sides understand that, look, you can be who you want to be. Just don't force your view on others, right? If you want to be someone who likes guns, awesome. Just don't force people in Brooklyn who might be scared. Let them be alone and let the people in Brooklyn leave you alone. I think that's one of the hardest things. But from your point, the issue that I deal with here is that with the COVID lockdowns, there were a lot of people who were totally okay with it and still are. They were okay with it. In fact, the last polling, yes, the last polling we did, about 55 to 60% of New Yorkers were absolutely okay with the lockdowns and the way our governor handled COVID. And one of the things that was an advantage is for them is that Cuomo's gone. So Cuomo's horribleness actually made it a little bit better, meaning for them, for Democrats. Because when Cuomo's mistake.
Oh no. I think Larry's coming up on the tunnel now.
Come back, Larry.
I'm here. I just stopped talking.
Libertarian. Oh, there we go. No,
I just stopped talking. Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh, sorry about that. So what is your well, I guess let me ask both of you this. And what is the because I know, Larry, you're going through hell right now with the signature gathering. They changed some rules there or something like that to truncate the amount of time that you have to collect signatures, right?
They cut the time down and tripled the amount. I used to have to get 15,000. Now I have to get 45,000 in 6 weeks. So I have to average, I have to get about 70,000 total to make sure that, I don't get challenged. So I have to average 2,000 signatures every single day. This is why I am physically out doing this myself. I don't work anymore. I just do this. So literally, I was at a gun show in the early morning when everyone was online to go into the gun show, and I had 4 people with signatures, and I worked the entire up and down line, back and forth, getting people to sign. Right. Then I was at a Trump rally, getting them to up and down, and then I'm at a weed shop, getting them to do it. Right. Then I'm at a winery, getting them to do it. So everywhere I go, I'm trying to get more people to get on board with what we're trying to achieve. It's challenging. It's very hard.
How is your outlook on achieving it?
To be forward, nobody thinks I can do it. LP Nationals think I can do it. The other parties I was trying to. In New York State, we have multiple parties. We have what's called fusion voting. So you can actually be on more than one line. So I tried to get on multiple lines. I tried to get on the Independence Party, the Unite Party, the Forward Party, and I tried to get a bunch of them to back me. And every one of them at the end said, Larry, you'll never get in the ballot, and they backed out. The exception of the Forward Party, believe it or not. Andrew Yang's party was the only party that went, Larry, we're still going to back you. We're still going to endorse you. We're just not ready to write checks to get you on a line. So I still have the endorsement, but every one of them backed off, thinking that I could do it. Right now, it was hard because last week was a snowstorm, but now we are rocking and rolling. We are on our way forward, and we can get this thing done. I think we're going to make it. I feel comfortable.
So I don't know if this is something you thought of, but one thing that me and Maj Toure did, and this was his idea when he was running for city council in Philly, that we found to be very, very effective, was we literally just went down into the subway and jumped trains back and forth. And Maj would do an impromptu, between stops, an impromptu, excuse me, everybody, I'm sorry, for taking up your time, but I'm Maj Toure. And we got a lot of signatures from the streets that way. And it was a lot of fun. Now,
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's something to think about, and you give a little campaign speech, you go down there with 2-3 people so that when you go up and you start talking, they start going around with clipboards and you want to sign, this isn't an endorsement, yada, yada. And, get the signatures. Now, the only downside of that is it's not guaranteed that the person is a voter, but I can tell you that we were very, very successful doing that. And it was a lot of fun. And you could get, anywhere from 5 to 12 signatures per stop.
The issue that we have in the subways now is there aren't many people on the subways anymore because of all our violence. And a lot of people on the subway, you're right, they don't live in New York, they live in Jersey or Connecticut. So, and many of them actually aren't even registered to vote in New York City. They're actually registered to vote in other states. Remember, 1/3 of New York City is people not born in the country. Another 1/3 of people not born in New York City. So a lot of people are not going to be registered voters in New York.
Gotcha. Well, it worked for us. Just trying to help.
I love it. No, I mean, every bit we can get, man. We're outside. So you want to some of that government overreach? How about sign a petition? Not a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the way to go about it. I only caught about half of that because you're going out again, but I like it. So Shane, how's the signature situation looking in Georgia?
Well, this might be the one thing that Georgia does a little bit better than New York in terms of ballot access. Ballot access down here is statewide. Races are open to libertarians. So governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, ag commission, public service, and U.S. Senate races. I may have forgotten one or two, but we've got a full slate for all the statewide campaigns down here. So we are in the November election already. And that's huge. I mean, that's,
nice.
to be, through, our convention, which, you still have to explain to people, but yeah, it's going well. This being, not only empathetic, but having some energy and some hope to give to people now is just, it's one of those things where they want more classes. They want more engagement. They want to know what you know, and they want to know the people that you found this out through, this grapevine. So it's going well. And to Larry, man, I'll tell you right now, if anybody's out there that knows Larry Sharpe, the man and I have had just a few run-ins together, but I can tell you, I will never forget either one of those. The man is not only, he's got that Marine mentality all day long, doesn't know how to lose. And no matter what he's doing, he's going to be on point in terms of messaging. I'll tell you, if you got, extra money after donating, like, go donate to Larry as well. I mean, getting around New York, it's expensive as hell, and he's fighting a good fight up there. I think the one thing, before we probably wrap up this time slot, is I think people need to really jump on this part is the state, the Fed, whatever it is, wherever you're running. This is how illegitimate they are, is you've got people who want to be on the ballot who are stripped through force and coercion of their money, their time, their life, liberty, and property, and they can't even get on the ballot, which I think is absolutely maybe one of the biggest hallmarks of a banana republic. So, don't count Larry out, man. He's that guy that's going to come through in the end.
Well, I appreciate that, Shane, tremendously. I wish my messaging was always on point. I try to make it on point, but I sometimes gamble and lose. It does happen. But I am more about gambling and losing than not gambling. You and I both know sometimes you got to roll the dice to get out there and try to make things happen. But I'm not going to let you shirk your responsibility, Shane. You have to give Shane money too. I bug Shane every time, raise money, so give money to Shane too. It's important that he does this. He was the reason. He was the spoiler last time he ran. This is the guy who's making real impact. Why think I talk about him when I go on TV? Because this is the guy making impact. So you can't shirk your responsibility, Shane. You got to raise money too. I bug you all the time. Give Shane money also. Particularly if you're in Georgia and you don't give Shane money, you're crazy. It's like you have a mental problem. You need to be giving this guy some cash. That's just how it works.
All right. So
Larry, where can people donate to your campaign?
That's my job.
LarrySharpe.com, always, my friend. Larry Sharpe. I have the coolest name because no one else has it, so it's awesome.
What's the E stand for?
The E stands for electable. Of course it does.
Bam.
It also stands for educating people about giving Shane Hazel money at ShaneHazel.com. So yes.
Now accepting Bitcoin on Cash App.
There we go.
On ShaneHazel.com. You guys can find it.
There we go.
Awesome.
Love you, Larry.
Well, you guys each want to give kind of a thank you, man. Each of you guys want to give kind of a closing statement? I'll shoot out a link in the comments here to both of your websites, and then Larry, let's talk off camera and maybe we can work something out to support the petition campaign.
Yeah, look, this is the reality. You guys talk about messaging often, and it's important. And you will always hear me say the same thing. I want all of the messaging because lots of people come to our movement from different places, different ways. Message how you feel appropriate to get the people who you know into us as fast as you possibly can. Because here's the reality. When they come to us, one of two things happens. They stay for a bit and go, not for me, and leave, or they become harder core libertarians. I'm hoping a whole lot more of the second thing happen, but we got to get them in. Use what you think is appropriate. I'm the recruiter. Others have to train.
Awesome. And then Shane, you got any closing statements?
Yeah, much like Larry, I think messaging is obviously the key here, and because of some very wise advice from Larry, know who your crowd is, and I say
Yes.
that because when you became a quote unquote libertarian, you took a step into a new group, a new world, a new tribe, and things like that. Right? It took you a long time to go from whatever you were in the past to maybe an ANCAP, an agorist, whatever you are now in terms
Yep.
of to the threshold of anarchy. It took you a long time to get there. Be patient with
Mm-hmm.
people, give them empathy, tell them stories, lead with your heart, and I guarantee you, they'll come back and they'll start asking for information at that point. That's the only thing I tell you is be the example when you go out there. Be positive and be those people that they're looking for, that have solutions and don't just gripe about the problem. So, hey, Mike Heiss, Larry, everybody who's coming on, everybody out there in the audience, you guys are absolutely amazing. Watching what the LPMC has done, I said, hats off to Michael Heiss before, but I don't think you'll ever get enough credit for what you've done in this space in terms of the work that I hate doing. I hate doing that kind of work. Like I love messaging and I love, podcasting, but to do this work on the back end is absolutely vital. And we need Mike and everybody else out there pushing. So thank you to everybody in the Mises Caucus. Thank you, everybody who's got an open mind in the Libertarian Party. And we'll see you guys in Reno. Love you to death.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate your time, Larry. Let's talk soon and discuss that. And the credit belongs to Ron Paul, not me. So, all right. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. We're gonna bring Lainey up and get a update on where we're at with the fundraiser. There we go. All right.
Thanks, Mike. We are kicking ass, you guys. We have already raised almost $2,000 since we have started this live stream, and we're only $1,000 away from our goal. I can't believe it. This is insane. So keep those donations coming in. Every penny counts, and everything goes towards helping delegates get to Reno and make sure they can afford to help do the Reno reset. So thank you for digging deep and helping those people out.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you very much. Like I said, I think we're just under 2,000 that we've made since the start, climbing towards 20,000. The goal for tonight is 21,000. So if we can hit or even beat that, it's going to go a long way for the mobilization effort for the delegates. So thank you guys so much. Laney, I'm going to, see how we're going with it later. Thank you very much for the update. And I'm going to bring up somebody who needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. This is the author of Enough Already, Time to End the War on Terror, the managing editor of antiwar.com. I think that's the correct title. And the founder and chair of the Libertarian Institute. Scott Horton, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you? Looks like you're doing great.
Yeah, man. So what you're going to notice is there's going to be a little random bell sound as we talk, and that's people giving. So don't get all like, oh, what the hell is that? It's good news is what it is.
Good.
But so Scott, you've been going around the country, before we get into the heavy stuff, before we get into, what's the latest on Ukraine, what's the latest on Yemen, you've been maybe more than anybody going around the country and going to these state conventions and giving talks about Ukraine and giving talks about the anti-war message. What are you seeing inside the Libertarian Party as you go around and do this?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for all the plane tickets. It's been great. I've been, I'll probably leave somebody out and get in trouble, but I've been to, trying to go more or less from west to east here. I've been to Washington and to California. I've been to Utah and Arizona and Colorado, and then working our way south here down to Alabama and to Florida, and then up in the Northeast. Well, moving further north from there in non-chronological order, Kentucky and Tennessee, and then Delaware and Connecticut and New Hampshire and upstate New York and Pennsylvania twice. And I'm sorry, I know I'm leaving a couple out, but there's just been
all over. Yeah.
And And really, I am so appreciative. You know, I've never seen so much of the country. Most of it's just out of airplane windows and hotel windows because, you know, I'm kind of busy. It's not like I'm sightseeing, but, you know, just flying around and looking out the window. I'm always a window seat guy. And meeting all the people and just, you know, getting at least a sense of the terrain, at least, you know what I mean, and the different places around the country. It's more traveling than I've ever done. So it's been really great there. And then the libertarians I've met have all been great. It's virtually all Mises Caucus people who are like, you know, arranging the hotel and the travel and picking me up and all of that. Not entirely, but almost. So, but then I can just tell, I think I bet you, I couldn't prove it or like I wouldn't swear, but I would bet you, Michael, that at every single one of these things for the last 2 years, I have been told, wow, this is the biggest one of these we've ever had. And that's even in real small states where, you know, there's 100 people in there and they go, yeah, but we never beat 35 before. This is hard, you know, in some of these small states, it's, you know, a pretty big deal to have that many people come. And so, but, and then some of these, it's just a riot. I mean, some of these, it's just absolutely huge. And I think they've all said that. I mean, there's all the excitement is around the Mises Caucus and everybody coming into the party for this purpose. So it's just been really great. And then, you know, I kind of feel like it's long overdue, not necessarily me, but should have been Justin and or, you know, anybody from antiwar.com and our part of the movement focused on foreign policy all this time. I think it's really telling and really important, you know, that people can just see. It's just demonstrated truth that this is the Mises Caucus's priority. And that's why they're sending me out.
Scott, I got to cut you off and interrupt you for 1 second. James Gentleman, thank you for the $67. That bell just took us to $20,000.
Oh, wow.
$1,000 away from our goal for the entire weekend, which I think we might blow through tonight. So sorry for interrupting. You had to give that shout out, man. That's awesome. Thank you.
No, that's great. And I like James too. He's a good dude. Really appreciate that.
So, all right, we're on fire in the party. That's
yeah. No, it is. It's great. Listen, I mean, the thing is, you know, these are state parties. State parties don't have foreign policies that much or whatever. But the fact is, like, what's happening here is, I mean, everybody's good in anti-war anyway. But this is really, I think, helping to get the Libertarian Party nationwide on the same page about not just what we, you know, think about foreign policy, but just how important it is to us. That this is what the Libertarian Party is going to be about from now on, is doing everything we can to end the American world empire.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're hoping to do. And we're hoping to bring that huge movement that was around Ron Paul, that's around people like you, people like Tom, and bring that into the party. So let's shift gears a little bit and drill down into your expertise. And, you know, we've only got 20 minutes, so, you know, we'll have to keep it a little truncated, but if we could do maybe 10 minutes on what's the latest in Ukraine, what's the outlook? Is it looking like Putin might expand further west? Is it looking, I haven't been keeping up with it, to be honest with you. So, you know, how's the talks going there? And then how's the ceasefire going in Yemen?
Yeah. Well, shame on you. You got to read antiwar.com every day.
I read the headlines, but I can't, it's just very difficult right now.
Hey, I hear you. Believe me. But everyone should know Dave DeCamp and Jason Ditz and Kyle Anzalone and Will Porter are just at the Libertarian Institute and antiwar.com kind of overlapping. They're just doing such great news coverage right now. It's really incredible and will help keep you up to date. I think, you know, I don't know how far the Russians ever really meant to go in the first place. You know, that kind of remained to be seen. So, you know, the common narrative is that they were really moving on Kiev and got forced back. And I think that's probable. You know, I don't know. There are others who say that, no, that was really just to divide Ukrainian forces while they focused on the south and the land bridge across Mariupol and to, you know, that whole coast of the Sea of Azov there and to Crimea and to guarantee the freshwater sources for Crimea and essentially just to guarantee the greater Donbass. Frankly, they haven't succeeded entirely in seizing all of the Donbass, much less further west from there to the Dnieper River or much less even all the way further, which is, I think you're kind of referring to the headline there, where this one Russian general said, actually, we might go ahead and take Odessa and take all of the southern, Ukrainian coast all the way to, I'm going to say it wrong, Transnistria, something like that, which is this tiny little strip of pro-Russian land on the Ukrainian-Moldovan border. And so that's, expanding their stated goals, while apparently in practice they've scaled their, their actual progress back. And I guess I'll tell you something that I heard that was hopeful, was that, May 9th is Victory Day, the celebration of their victory over the Nazis in World War II. And William Arkin, the Newsweek reporter, said that, I guess his DIA sources are telling him that they're really hoping to see Putin declare victory on May 9th and go home, or at least just keep the Donbass. And then I guess the question is how bad the Ukrainian army keeps fighting to try to retake the Donbass from the Russians at that point. I really don't know, man. Tonight, Blinken, Secretary of State Blinken and Secretary of Defense Austin are in Kiev, or they just snuck in and left, had a meeting and left. And that almost certainly was just promising more weapons and more support, rather than, laying down the law that now is the time to come to an agreement. And I'm just speculating about that, but all signs are that the American government, the Biden administration, does not want peace here. They want to drag this war out. They see how bad it's going for the Russians, and they think it's fun to see that, to bleed Russia, as they say. Just what bin Laden finished, not quite finished, doing to the United States, mimicking our policy against Russia in the 1980s, and baiting them into invading Afghanistan and backing the Mujahideen insurgency against them there. We're not just a few months out of Afghanistan. We're already trying to repeat the same policy against the Russians in Ukraine now. But everything depends on diplomacy, really. I mean, unless Putin just declares victory and quits, then what's going to have to happen is, even then, I don't know. The Americans are going to have to lean on the Ukrainian government to concede Crimea and probably the Donbass region and neutrality, and that they're going to stay out of NATO, which those were the Russians' terms all along. And I don't really see the war stopping short of that. And again, the Americans, I think, are just pouring weapons in and want the war to continue. So, I don't know. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I don't see any positive signs at all.
What do you think the motivation is? Why would they want it to continue?
Because
what do they stand to gain geopolitically?
Well, they want to break Russia away. See, if you go back to the Grand Chessboard by Zbigniew Brzezinski from 1997, he talks about how with the Crimean Peninsula, or all of Ukraine as part of the Russian Empire, then Russia is a global power. But without it, they're not. And that's essentially, especially referring to their naval base at Sevastopol on the Crimean Peninsula, which is their only year-round warm water port. Otherwise, they got to sail, only in the summertime and from the Black Sea, but I mean, from the north, from the Baltic Sea or the Far East. But if they have their base at Sevastopol, that's the Black Sea, and then through Turkey and the Bosporus Strait their access to the Mediterranean. And so it just makes a huge difference. So the American perspective has always been, ever since the Cold War ended, to keep kicking them while they're down and kicking them while they're down. I mean, this is why the Bill Clinton government backed the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan in the mid-1990s. It was because they wanted to put a soda straw in the Caspian Basin in Turkmenistan and build an oil pipeline across Afghanistan and Pakistan to the port of Karachi. And the Clinton government said, yeah, we're doing this because we want to keep it out of the hands of the Russians. We're trying to pump all this oil and gas south and east and west and anywhere but north. Same reason that they backed the Mujahideen in Chechnya in the Second Chechen War in 99-2000 was to prevent the Russians from reactivating or from being able to use a Soviet-era pipeline that ran through the Caucasus Mountains there. And so it's just essentially, it's anything they can do. It's just relentless pressure, anything they can do to pressure Russia, destabilize Russia, deprive them of every last nickel they can think of to deprive them. And what's funny too is because just like with their Iran policy in the Middle East, all this is counterproductive, or much of it is counterproductive. For example, the giant boost in oil prices has really helped the Russians. And here we're still buying oil from them, and so are the Europeans, and financing, essentially picking up the cost of the tab of the war just through the oil prices that we're paying them. So, I don't know if that adds up exactly, but you know what I mean. But that's what it is. It's not that they love Ukraine. If they loved Ukraine, they'd be doing everything they could to try to stop this war. But what it is, it's the same as Afghanistan.
Oh.
They didn't care any more than the Russians if
Hang on,
million Afghans died in the 80s,
You're getting played off. So we just hit the goal, Scott. Somebody just gave $777.
Oh, holy crap.
I missed the name. Matthew.
Oh, there it is.
Thank you, Matthew, man. That is awesome.
We did it.
So that's the goal for the weekend. So, I mean, I think Laney
Well,
was
let's
probably
see if we
planning.
can get 50,000 then.
I think the next one we want to hit.
No, it's Sunday. I'm sorry. I was thinking it was Friday. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
No, it's just Sunday night. That's pretty good, man.
We will hit it. We'll talk about it with Laney after this. I think the next goal is $30,000 because that was the National Party's biggest fundraiser of the year. But
okay.
This is clearly more important than death and destruction in nuclear war over in Ukraine. So I'm sorry for cutting you off, but
that's totally cool, man. That's great.
Listen,
I'm excited to be a part of this thing with you guys, dude. I think it's so great.
Thank you, man.
And I'm sure that we can make 30,000 by the end of the night. It's only 5:46 Texas time.
Yeah, man.
So it's only a quarter after 3 in the afternoon out in LA and on the West Coast,
I think people want to see you give a little something. I got to see you invest. And then
okay. Well, what do I got to click on? Tweet me a link, man.
LPMC.
Can you tweet me a link?
I can text you a link. How's that?
No, that won't work.
Well, I'll do.
You gotta tweet me a link, and then I'll have it.
I will tweet you a link in the interim when Laney is when
okay.
Laney is giving.
Here.
So let's
kick
drill
me
back.
off and bring Laney up.
No. And you got 13 minutes, and there's a lot of information that we can fit in about Yemen in that. Let's shift gears. So Yemen is one that I've actually been following since the whole thing kicked off, and it's one that really burns me knowing the background that led that up to that, and. There was some really bad news in Yemen where they fell way short. The UN fell way short of the money they were looking for to get relief aid to them and the already really scarce rations that the people, and just so people realize what I mean, how crazy it is, 80% of the entire population in Yemen are completely dependent on rations aid to survive. And those rations have been cut in half recently. Now that was followed by some good news that there was finally a ceasefire that's been agreed to. I know there's been some violations of the ceasefire on both sides. So what is the stability of that ceasefire looking like? Is there any hope for peace here and building back up, or where are we at?
Yeah, well, there is real hope. I'm not making any promises at all, but when the a week and 3 days ago, I guess, I talked with Nasser Arabi, the reporter out of Sana'a, and he told me that, I'm sorry?
I just said, oh, wow. Like you have on the ground people there. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. I've been, man, you need to subscribe to my podcast, homeboy.
There's a lot. I got about 30 of them.
I know. Who's got time to listen to them all, man? God dang, I've interviewed Nasser since right when the war started. So for 7 years straight now, I've known this guy. He's a reporter out of Sana'a, and a real good guy. He used to report for the New York Times back when they wanted to know what he had to say, back before this phase of the war started in 2015. Back when it was just fighting against AQAP. But he's a really great guy. And he was telling me, oh, yeah, no, man, this is bigger, different, special, awesome, extra crazy. It ain't what it was before. This ceasefire compared to all the others is meaningful. It's for 2 months, and it's negotiated not just by this or that group, but it's agreed to by everyone. And so that means the Houthis on their side, and people say something about the the Iranians, but they're not really actual belligerent in the war. They just provide some aid, so they're not even relevant. But on the other side, the Saudis, the UAE, and the factions that they back on the ground, including the Muslim Brotherhood faction, Al-Islah, the Salafi faction, which is really Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, that has now joined up with the UAE as the UAE's militia force there, and also the Socialists, the Southern Transitional Council down there in the port city of Aden. They have all signed on to this ceasefire. And then the most important part of it, politically speaking, that makes it seem meaningful is that the presumed and supposed president of the government of Yemen, the one that was actually deposed back 7 years ago, Mansour Hadi, who's been living more or less on house arrest in a hotel in Riyadh all this time, he has officially renounced his title and claim to the throne. So this was, I mean, this is the point of the war, is we are going to reinstall Hadi to the throne. Now here's Hadi saying, never mind that. And what they did instead was they appointed a council of, I forgot, was it 4 or 8? It was like a council of 8 that doesn't include the Houthis. It's the other side, but it's essentially consolidating the position of the other side into an alliance that then can negotiate with the Houthis without that major demand standing in the way. But of course, the American role here is very destructive, and one of the and the British role too. There's so much money at stake, Michael, as you know, and the British are what they call the pen holder on the UN Security Council for Yemen, because it used to be a British property. And so this is like, I don't know if it's the world law or this is just the tradition on the Security Council, where if it's a former colony of yours, then you get to decide when action is taken or not taken on that issue. So right now there's a UN Security Council resolution that essentially demands that the Houthis lose and give up. And that's the world law right now. And so that UN Security Council resolution has to change and be more flexible for the future outcome in what's going to take place in Yemen there. And you're going to need the Americans and the British to go along to do that. And the French too are making money on this.
So what's going on with some of the other aspects of it? Because I know there was friction with the UAE or the United Arab Emirates at one point. Like I think at one point they were actually fighting against the Yemenis, even though they're part of the alliance. And then you've got the Southern separatists. And then you've also got Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. So like, are they growing? What's going on with the separation movement? Are they still fighting kind of with the Houthis? What about some of these other kind of tangential elements?
Well, they're all in on the ceasefire now. Whether they all
even Al-Qaeda?
Are able, I mean, if they're all able to negotiate, I mean, let's just say that we get a real kind of armistice to end the war, then whether they will all be able to negotiate to stay in a new government under the Houthis or in a coalition with the Houthis very much remains to be seen. In fact, Nasser Arabi said regarding the Southern Socialists, the STC, they're called the Southern Transitional Council, which is the Southern Socialist group that rules Aden and has this strong alliance with the United Arab Emirates, that they may just end up breaking the country up again. I mean, it was North Yemen and South Yemen until 1991. And, Abdullah Saleh was able to form a coalition and win a war, and then in the aftermath, pull everybody together and hold it that way for 30 years. But there's nothing necessarily natural about that. And, it's funny because the UAE backs the commies, but they also back the Al-Qaeda guys too. And they're deadly enemies of each other, but they're just also enemies of the Houthis. So at times, the socialists have fought against the Al-Qaeda guys, and they're both, their region is in the south. So I think that's a fight that's going to unfold in the future. And frankly, like, I'm very sad to say that when this war against the Houthis ends, that doesn't mean that the war against Al-Qaeda ends. That means the war against Al-Qaeda starts back up again. That'll mean America's turning sides, switching sides in the war again. So it couldn't possibly be as horrible as the war that we've been fighting there against the regime that had taken over the capital city and trying to force them out through this massive siege warfare. But the terror war against Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula preceding that was already an absolute horror show. You know, they call the drones a surgical strike and the bombs they drop a scalpel, but it's just not true, right? Dropping a bomb on a car or a truck or a house, and oftentimes a funeral or a wedding, and you're killing innocent people by the dozens, by the scores, and then you have all new recruits. And here this whole time, man, for 7 years, virtually the entire time, well, for the first 2 years, Al-Qaeda took over like 10 towns, including the port city of Makalla, and including, you know, military bases and weapons magazines, and just increased their power by 10,000%. Then the Americans said, this is really bad public relations for us. So the UAE, Michael, went in there and wiped them out. No, I'm just kidding. The UAE went in there and gave them a bunch of your money and hired all the Al-Qaeda guys and made them their mercenary army on the ground there, which includes all kinds of foreign mercenaries and whoever else fighting for them on the ground. So Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula has been on a vacation from the American war against them for 7 years now. We've been flying as their Air Force, as Michael Horton, no relation, the Yemeni expert, told Mark Perry back in March 2015, that this is, you know, John McCain says we're flying as Iran's Air Force in Iraq. Never mind whose fault that is, John McCain. But John McCain says we're flying as Iran's Air Force in Iraq. Well, we're flying as Al-Qaeda's Air Force in Syria, Michael Horton said then. And it's been true this whole time. So then that means if, and big if, this armistice or this ceasefire can, you know, develop into a real end to this war, it means we still have a whole other war to fight. And you know, judging on, you know, based on, you know, recent history of American policy there, forever. I mean, they're not doing Iraq War II style invasions and regime changes in the Middle East anymore, but they are fighting CIA drone wars and special operations wars throughout the Middle East and Africa right now. I mean, we have troops in Syria and Iraq. We've got, you know, on and off terror wars in Yemen. We still have the longest war in American history in Somalia, right there across the Red Sea from Yemen. And we've got special operators in Libya and Mali and Niger and Chad and Burkina Faso and Sierra Leone and Nigeria and just all through that whole region of Northern and Western Africa. The consequences of Hillary and Obama's war in Libya in 2011, where it all spread south into Mali and the rest. So, you know, we have special operations forces all throughout the Middle East and Africa still. And anyway, once the war against the Houthis is over, the war against AQAP starts again.
Yeah. So we've got 2 minutes left. I'll just give one comment on that. That one of the things that really burns me up about the Yemen conflict is how similar the beginnings of it are to what happened with Afghanistan in the 80s, where, you know, we used to be tactical buddies with the Houthis. You know, back we first entered drone operations in Yemen during the Bush administration as part of the war on terror for the AQAP, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, like you're talking about. And at that time, the best ground fighting force was the Houthis, you know, and then once they took over the capital and basically demanded a seat at the table, that's when everything changed. And you know, I don't know all the details, I'm sure you do, but that's when everything changed and we went on this starvation campaign, and it's just abysmal.
Well, you're very close, but I'll clarify for you here that, in fact, you know, John Kiriakou told me the first drone strike he knows about in Yemen was former CIA officer, was against the Houthis in 2005.
Wow.
It was part of the payoff to Abdullah Saleh, who was fighting them at the time. But you're right that America allied with the Houthis. But what it is this very narrow time frame. It was right after the Houthis seized the capital city in December 2014. It was our current Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, was then the commander of Central Command. And he said, hey, you guys like killing Al-Qaeda? Great. And was giving them intel to use to target and kill Al-Qaeda guys. So that started essentially in December or, you know, maybe November, but certainly by December 2014. And there's two great pieces about it. One by Barbara Slavin in Al Monitor and one, I don't know the reporter's name, but another in the Wall Street Journal, both from January 2015, saying we're giving intelligence to the Houthis to kill al-Qaeda. Then it was just 2 months after that Obama turned around and stabbed them in the back and took al-Qaeda's side against them. So you're right. I mean, we are talking, it is, on one hand, as you mentioned, with the humanitarian situation there, it's genocide. And people are starving to death by the hundreds of thousands, dying of otherwise easily treatable diseases, by the hundreds of thousands, and it's treason, directly fighting on behalf of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and against, as you just said, who? Their most deadly enemies, the Houthis, who to al-Qaeda, the only good Shiite is a dead Shiite. So from the Houthis' point of view, oh yeah, well, the only good al-Qaeda guy is a dead al-Qaeda guy. And instead of just even staying out of the way and letting it play out, we stabbed them in the back. Obama and Trump and Biden stabbed them in the back and took al-Qaeda's side against them.
All right, Scott, we are out of time, but I really appreciate it. And, it's been a real treat to become like friends with you over the course of this entire thing and get to hear these kinds of, I get bonus episodes every day. So
that's right.
So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And thank you for your support. I tweeted you the link. So we need a Scott Horton bell here momentarily.
It's coming up in just a minute. And thank you, Michael. And thank you, everybody, all the leaders of the Mises Caucus in the 50 states around the country. I know some of your names and I forgot some too, but there's a lot of y'all I never met before, but I know you're busting your asses out there to make this happen. And this fund drive is to make sure to get every last one of our guys and girls to Reno to make sure every vote counts. So for our Reno reset, and make the Libertarian Party something that we can all be proud of. So thank you to Michael, and thank you to everyone for donating. And I'll thank you to donate again if you already did too.
Thank you, Scott. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've got Dave Benner, Karen Ann Harlows, and Steve Nikala ready to come up, but we're going to do one quick update with Lainey. How much are we up from the beginning?
We are up, oh gosh, I want to say almost $4,000. Like, this is incredible.
Oh,
we hit that about 45 minutes in. So I know that you and I wanted to make kind of a special announcement here to see if we can break a record. We know that earlier last year, libertarians came together, and over a week they were able to bring together. And I love these trolls things, by the way. I'll take your $7 no matter what you want to say in those comments. I hope we get some good ones. Shout out to the $69 whoever did that a while back. So with that, we know that folks were able to pull together $30,000 in about 8 days, and we want to see if we can break that record tonight. And so, Mike, I know that you've been hitting the phone, speaking to a lot of really generous individuals, and we're really excited to announce that those individuals have agreed that they're going to match up to $7,000 that are raised on this stream. So with that, we're going to go for gold. We're going to go for a stretch goal of $30,000 tonight. And so we encourage everybody to dig deep. Let's donate as much as possible to help all of these delegates get to Reno and have a place to stay. So thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Amazing. And with Wayne Harlos, he's already starting up our goal to 30,000. So make sure you can double your money and donate in the next 2 hours here. We'll be leaving this open all night. With that, Mike, we're actually also getting some requests on Twitter for us to talk a bit about the schedule. I know you've announced who's coming up right now at 7 p.m., but do you want to talk about the next 3 segments before we jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. So we got Dave Benner, who is running for LNC Representative Region 2. We've got Steve Nikala, who's going to be running for LNC at large. And we've got Karen Ann Harlows, who's going to be taking her secretary's seat back with a vengeance. And then the last thing I'll say before I bring them up is, as Scott alluded to, this isn't just like, I know a lot of people think of the Mises Caucus and think of me, but like there's like 250 or 260 state organizers around the country, and there's thousands of volunteers under them. This thing has really turned into something insane that we never expected it to be when we started. And you know, we're all learning together. We never had a PAC in the original vision of this whole thing. And you know, thank you to everybody who has been working so hard with all the drudgery, oftentimes against, you know, ridiculous actors in your states. So thank you, everybody. Please keep those bells ringing. And I'm going to bring up our LNC candidates. So, it happens. It's live TV.
Hey. Howdy.
How's it going, guys? How are you? So we got historian Dave Benner. We've got the Shah of Iran, Stephen Nikela, and we've got the Pink Flame of Liberty, Karen Ann Harlos. Oh, we've got Aaron Harris, the host of our podcast, Decentralized Revolution, with us as well. So honestly, guys, I'm going to kind of just give you a little nudge, and I want to let you be the stars of the show here while I go get some water. And basically just let you guys bounce around each other. What is your vision for the Libertarian Party in this upcoming regime? You know, what are the problems that we're trying to solve, and how do you feel about the future of the party? And I'm going to go wet the whistle. I'll be right back.
Hey guys, I'm going to watch the comments and stuff like that. Do you want me to, if there's a good question, interject or? Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. I'll kind of watch that, but Mike, I just turned my mic on or so I could hear you. Or you're going to introduce them, then you're going to bounce?
We already did. We're off. I'm going to get water. I'll be right back.
We're doing it live, Aaron. We're doing it live.
It's live. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a rookie at this.
Well, hey, all, I want to just apologize for the weak voice right away. For those who don't know, I'm on the tail end of a not mild case of COVID. I got hit pretty hard, but like all the major COVID symptoms are gone, but the COVID fog, the COVID sore throat, the COVID cough is still here. All I can say is, I'm always one of the people who look on the weird, bright side of things. And no offense to you, Stephen Nikela, on this. In a weird way, getting booted from the LNC has been a blessing in disguise. I always try to look at things that way because no offense against you, Stephen, but I am so glad to be far away from the blast radius of this self-implosion that we are witnessing. I feel bad for the good guys like you, but I know you're keeping the fort, and I really appreciated what you just said on that vote. But if I'm not my usual Energizer Bunny self, it's COVID.
Well, your energy, Karen Ann, at COVID is still like 110% of my energy. So totally understand. No worries. Hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, I am. And actually where I was going with that is I actually think getting COVID when I did was a blessing in disguise because better then than right before Reno, right? So if I was going to get super sick, I'm glad it happened a month. And now I've got, I've got that natural immunity. And I'm grateful for that. I know people think I'm like so weird for looking on the bright side of a lot of things, but I actually think.
Hang on, I'm sorry. I have to cut you off real quick. That was a $777 donation from fucking Scott Horton. Thank you very much, Scott.
Right.
I'm sorry for cutting you off. I just got the water. I trust you didn't tell them about like the white nationalist stuff.
No, that's for later.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so sorry. Keep going. Don't let me. You guys are the star of the show.
Well,
I think
let me piggyback. So I just want to say Region 2 is outflanking you guys here because me and Steven are representing. Steven's running for at-large. I'm running for Region 2 representative, and I can't be more enthusiastic right now than I am. This is the most energized I've ever seen a segment of the party going into a national convention, and I can't wait to be on the same executive committee as you two. I'll just say one of the reasons I decided to run is because I think this LNC has been tepid, feckless, and cowardly in the face of the COVID regime. And I see kind of the same thing right now when it goes to ignoring the militarization of Eastern Europe. And we want to just bring a really fierce message that's anti-Fed, anti-war, anti-drug war in a way that hasn't really been brought forward in the last few years. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just I'm running for at large, as you know, and it's kind of funny to think that am I technically old guard? Because I feel like I've been in the LNC since I've been in diapers. So
you're the establishment.
But I'm really looking forward to it. I love the energy. Being Florida State Chair, I've seen a lot of the energy from a lot of the Mises guys that have been coming on and gals that have been coming on board. And one of the things we've been in short supply of for a long time is that young, ferocious energy. And that vitality that we've just been missing for a long time, and to have some fresh bodies to come in, to have that same energy come in, it's really nice to see, and I'm looking forward to the LNC being a force to be reckoned with as far as the messaging, as far as the executive vision, as far as getting libertarians aligned on what we want to accomplish. and actually having a plan and moving forward on it. And that to me is, what professional parties do. They energize, they have a plan, and then they attack it. So I really like the crew that's coming on. I've met most of the slate from the Mises Caucus, and the guys I know, like Dave, like Karen Ann, Todd Hagopian, and others. Just really, really great guys. It's going to be a great team, and it's going to be an awesome, awesome convention. I can't wait to see everybody over there.
We just got a $500 donation from Stefan Kinsella, and we're getting donations from heavyweights, and we need to recognize that. I don't know if you guys get the joke, but it's there.
Oh, no, I didn't get it. But, Stefan has been a very generous contributor to my campaign and has been a supporter of my show for the longest time. And I'm so grateful for him. Obviously, like very many other people, he turned me on IP. I don't think the man realizes sometimes the influence that he has. I think sometimes a lot of us don't realize that the influence that we have, but yeah. And a little known trivia fact. So if there's ever like a trivia game, Stefan knows this, but a lot of people don't know. It's one of his articles that pushed me over the edge into anarchism. So he's very special to me. I mean, a lot of people helped me along the way, but his article that's entitled, I'm going to get something. It's close. It's close enough for you to Google it. It's something to the effect of the moral irrelevance of the impossibility of anarcho-libertarianism, because the thing that was holding me back was, but is this possible? And of course, now I do believe it is possible, but that article is so great on showing, at least to me, on how ethical positions aren't dependent upon their possibility. Like, we all wish there were no murders. Is that ever going to happen? Probably not. But I would hope everyone in this room holds to the position there should be no murder. And so I owe a great debt, coughing, to Stefan.
And I don't know, Stefan, if you remember this, but like 10 years ago.
I'm pretty sure it's Stefan. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure it's Stefan.
Sorry. Stefan.
He's a heavyweight, guys. He is a heavyweight. You got to get it right. It's Stefan.
Mr. Kinsella. I remember this, but like 10 years ago at FIU, you actually Zoom conferenced into, we had a Young Americans for Liberty meeting, and you gave a whole presentation on IP, which really got my brain turning on IP, and I think that's really fantastic. And all the pieces of the puzzle in libertarianism, the Rothbards and the Kinsellas and the Misesians and everybody, we are an ideological movement as much as we are a political one. I think that's what makes the Libertarian Party so special and so dear and near to my heart, is that we have this ideology which drives us and which connects us, it's thanks to all the brainiacs and the intellectuals and the heavyweights. So thank you.
I was going to pull that up. Thank you, Aaron. So we got a audience comment here. I think that's a great question, because this is something that I've seen that's honestly scared me on a borderline spiritual level in this whole project is, how many people have we watched join the LNC and become nuts, or maybe they're just nuts when they got there, or what? But something about it seems to make people nuts. How do you guys plan to resist the golem?
I can speak on that. And first, I'll say, join libertarianism at night. Somebody donated $5 for me to tell you guys that. So let's talk about LNC corruption and sort of people going crazy on the LNC. Let's start with corruption. I mean, you guys saw what happened with JBH and the whole New Hampshire thing and this and that. I mean, that was outright corruption. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That was awful. And anybody who can defend that, I really don't know what to say. Really, it comes down to picking your people, picking who we work with, and holding them accountable also once they're in position. As far as people going crazy and going off the rails, politics it can be very intense at times. And I think people have this propensity to get emotional. And then what they do is they get into these fights and they put their pride on the line, and then they have to defend their prime. So it just spirals. And I think it's very objective to be, when you're in politics, is to to not only be objective, but to look at other people like a mineralogist looks at a rock and just say, oh, that's interesting. That's the way that person is. That's the way the situation is. And to be grounded when going into very emotional situations like we've had this morning or yesterday with the current vote in the LNC, is how do you approach something objectively and not let mob mentality or group emotions, group think drag you in a certain direction because the emotions are contagious. So I think that's one really important, thing to do, is not give into, the mob or emotion, but to be based on principles. And as far as LNC corruption, communication, to make sure to see what people are doing, what's going, hey, why are you doing that? Is it corruption, or is it just, somebody acting really silly and stupid and flying by the seat of their pants, which can look like corruption, but sometimes it's just lack of expertise. But sometimes it's corruption, and it comes down to electing the right folks. So
to me, it's also to embrace transparency. I know one thing that Karen Ann Harlos is big on, and I totally agree with her on this, is the abuse of the secretive LNC business list. The bylaws are very specific about which items can be discussed on that list, and I don't want any more abuses of that. Using it to discuss things that aren't relevant, that should be out in the open, to that main LNC business list, things like that. We really need to embrace transparency, argue with each other in good faith, or debate intra-party matters in good faith, and really hold each other accountable.
There's I obviously have a little bit to say about this. It's another one of those weird blessing in disguise situations that, where I try to look on the bright side of things, where I tell people, don't be discouraged that you know about all of this corruption on the LNC, because in the two old parties, you'd never hear about it. So the fact that the general party member knows this is going on, I actually think is a sign that we're still worth fighting for. And I know that may sound really weird. I am also really weirdly grateful for the opportunity to be removed for standing up for what was right. Because here's the thing. None of us know what we're going to do when push comes to shove, when something's really going to cost you something. So I'm glad I passed that test. But you have to you can't be backward looking. There's only so long we can sit here and go, oh, this past LNC was so terrible. The minute this convention is over, we need to forget about this past LNC. And I do think a very genuine concern members have, and if they don't have it, they should have it. It's legitimate, is how do you transition from, oh my God, this past LNC was so terrible, to becoming a functioning body again. And I think one of that, the main way is what Dave said, and it is through transparency and allowing members a voice, even when they say things you don't like. There had been, and this was cultivated by JBH, because he scolded me for this in front of everybody, by the way. He actually said something to Stephen, you may remember this. He said something, there are actually people on this body who said that they are on this body in order to protect the party from us. And yep, I'm one of those people. And he was like, that's a terrible attitude to have. Really? Well, I just understand how power is, and power corrupts. And yes, I do believe that all of us should be on this body, not just to serve the body, but to also protect the body from our own very human propensity to allow even the tiniest bit of power to corrupt us. It can happen to anybody, and even the tiniest bit of power. The joke is the amount of infighting is inversely proportional to the amount of power there actually is. And I think we need to start having things like, we started this in Colorado, quarterly town halls, where we let members come and say what they want. We'll like what some of them say. We will not like what one of them say. And when the LNC gets criticized, rather than circling the wagons, which is the culture that JBH put into this LNC, we need to step back and go, well, maybe there's
It was
something
before
there.
him. It was before
Well,
him.
he openly, though, Stephen will know if he thinks back to the very beginning of the term. And we have to realize that when we criticize each other, that we're doing it out of love for the party, to not take it personally and act like somebody ran over our dog. Stephen and I have gotten into arguments, but I mean, some serious like drag, but we've never doubted that each other loved the party. And we've never doubted that we loved each other. We might not like each other at that particular moment, but we've never, ever, made it personal. And something went wrong. Something got very dysfunctional along the way with this LNC, where a certain portion started taking criticism personally. And you can't be in politics and at the highest level of the third largest political party if you can't separate out your person from somebody who might be criticizing your view or your job performance. So I think openness and discussion, and being willing to be criticized without, again, acting like somebody ran over your dog, is what's going to take us forward. And we need to, because there's going to be people who are going to be very unhappy after Reno because their side didn't win, just like we would be unhappy if our side didn't win. We really don't know what's going to happen, but I think the writing's pretty much on the wall, if we're going to be honest. And I think it's very important to us to listen to those people and not be sore winners.
Karen is absolutely right. I mean, communication is key. And that's why, in the Libertarian Party of Florida, what we started doing when I became chair three years ago. Every Sunday, I like to say that every Sunday is for the Lord and the LP, because every Sunday at 7:30 we have a meeting. And it's either a meeting of the executive committee, a meeting of the officers, a general membership meeting, or a meeting with the chairs of our committees. And because we have that constant communication, if there's something we want to say, if there's something we want to get off our chest, if there's something we want to work on, we have the opportunity then to do so. So it's really important for the next LNC when they go in, and something I think this LNC and the last LNC is, and maybe even further back LNCs are all guilty of, is the lack of communication, goal setting, alignment, and execution. Because if you're working in a team, you want to get everybody on the same page. You want to make sure everybody's aligned on the goals. You want to make sure you have metrics to achieve those goals, and you want to execute. And so it's so important that everybody feels, whatever ends up happening after Reno, that the party as a whole has goals and we're aligned on these things, and that, everybody feels included in some way and has a way to participate, because even though if they don't like me or like Karen or like Dave or like whoever, at least they like what we're doing. And that's what drives a party forward. It drives a political movement forward. And I think with all the energy we have going into this year, all the new bodies, all the delegates, all the people on the state affiliates, there's just so much energy that it's going to be the LNC's job to drive that at a national level into being something productive. And we don't want to lose that energy, just not utilizing it or wasting it.
If it's cool with you guys, I want to jump in with one comment on this whole like pushing back corruption thing. I'm going to say something that might go against the grain a little bit. We talk about principles and being principled, and we're a political party based on libertarian principles. That is really, really important that we stick to those core principles, that we embody those core principles, and we put that out there. But there is one thing that is more important than principles, and that's character. Mm-hmm. And if you look at if you go off of say the Lord of the Rings, for example, Sam wasn't able to resist the ring because he was a really good libertarian. That's not the thing that kept him from doing it. It's the characteristics of what made him a hobbit. He's humble. He's got a value system. Those are the things. Character is the real value there. So we're looking to not just re-radicalize the party, although we're trying to raise the character of the party, because that's the example we have to give the rest of the world in order to make our ideas palatable and believable.
And I want to say one thing for those listening and everybody here that's, in the caucus and the party or doing something out in your locality, running for office, etc. And I'm sorry about the background noise. If I get some background noise, I'll try to mute myself. Which is, this idea that power corrupts. Absolutely, I disagree with. I actually think that in reality, everyone is seeking power. We just need to be intentional about doing so. Or in other words, everybody, I don't care who you are, seeks power at some fundamental human-based level. What's important to me is that the right people are the ones looking to gain power. You've probably seen it in my tagline. It's in Latin: impotentes defender libertatem non possunt. Those without power cannot defend freedom. And that's why it's so important for the righteous to stand up and be the ones to actually take power, because that power is going to attract something. And a lot of times that power, is going to attract the wrong type of people that are mediocre, that have just terrible character and bad personalities, and they like to build walls around themselves and only surround themselves with yes men, and then they're disconnected from the people on the ground, and then you have a complete disconnect. And in a political movement, it's so vital that the leadership is, in a sense, righteous, in a sense, has power but respectable authority. And so I would encourage everyone who's looking to how to get involved, that is of good character, to start seeking leadership positions, to start seeking local office, to start building your teams based upon that idea that power can be a good thing, as long as it's in the right hands.
All right, guys, we got 4 minutes left, so I want to give you guys each the opportunity to give a closing statement. Dave, I definitely, in your closing statement, want you to mention the book you're writing.
Well, thanks, Michael. I'm not here for that, but I have finished on a book on Thomas Paine called Thomas Paine: A Lifetime of Radicalism, and that will be out around Thanksgiving. Thanks for plugging that, but I really am interested in what is the future will hold for the LP, and it'll be with all 4 of you in some way, 3 of you on the executive committee, and 1 of you working in the leadership of the caucus. And I can't state how driven that I feel, knowing that the best messengers in the movement are behind us. The heroic Tom Woods, the colossal Dave Smith, that's an incredible messenger, the foremost foreign policy expert, Scott Horton, Michael Rectenwald, Jeff Dice, the list goes on. It really drives me to continue my work and to know that, what we're bringing to the table is worthy and it's valuable. And I want to share that with all of you. If you're going to Reno in Region 2, please consider voting for me. Reach out to me. I'll hear you out. Even if you don't agree with me on various ways I vote on the LNC, I will hear you out. So thanks for having us, and let the Reno reset commence.
Before the other 2 go, I just want to give the audience one little factoid that I think is interesting, is this hyper white-pilled version of Dave Benner. He's been one of our organizers in Tennessee for a while, and I remember when we first got started, he was a little trepid. Well, I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't know if this, and now it's like, and he's, it's beaming off of him, the white pilledness. So
better pastures, greener pastures now, Michael.
Awesome. Go ahead, guys. Steve, you're up.
Awesome. So just a quick little bit about me. I just want to say that I've been on the LNC for about 6 years now, serving side by side. I think Karen Ann's been as long as me. Florida State Chair, businessman. I run about 11 or 12 now restaurants, from fast food to full service. Been doing this stuff for a long time, and I look forward to your support in Reno. I look forward to serving side by side with these fine folks, and a future that we're going to have together to put the party in a more forward, positive, more authentic, and a more just a better direction. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there. I'm really excited. And I want to thank you all for being on the show tonight. Donate, help get delegates out to Reno, and be a part of the Reno Reset.
Thank you. And then Den Mother Harlos.
Oh boy, the amount of trouble that joke got me into is unreal. There's almost an unbroken line on that led to my removal. I'm going to just blame you guys. I want to refocus, because a lot of people have said, it's so easy to grow into the role of the perpetually aggrieved martyr. And how are you going to, move past that? Very easily. It's very tiring being the perpetually lathered up martyr. what my vision is and what my hope is to get back to my first love, why I ran. One of the reasons I ran up for the LNC to begin with, one obviously is to protect members and affiliates, but the other is party education and party history. And I just had an interview with Reason Magazine the other day, and it reminded me of what I used to love about being in leadership, because Brian Dougherty was just asking me, hey, how does the platform vote work? And what are the bylaws on that? And what's the procedure? And I know most people would rather gnaw their own foot out of a bear trap than like talk about that sort of thing. But we need all different kinds in this party. And that's the stuff I love. I want to get back to teaching the average party member how to be a productive member of this party, how the bylaws work, how to protect their rights, the basics of Roberts. And, and I do think that is a basic function of the secretarial. I kind of view us as the party librarian, very, very boring. And I look forward to being boring again. Make Karen Ann boring again.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. It's been a privilege to support you guys. Can't wait for the party under your guys' leadership. And, there is a lot to look forward to. I know out in the world, the news is getting dark, but it's always darkest before dawn. And we can make the party that dawn, and we need to. We really need to. So, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Long live the Mises Caucus, and see y'all in Reno.
Yes, and thank you. And thank you, Mises Caucus members, for all the support you'd given me even before I was a member. To me, that speaks to the character issue, and that's why I joined. I joined. You guys had character, and you had my back when I was being done wrong, and I'll never forget that.
Open door, Wayne spotted.
Close the door.
All right, well, guys, I can talk to you all night, but we got Michael Rectenwald in the back end here, so I'm gonna remove you. But I will see you all in Reno, and I will bring Lainey up for a quick update on how we're at with the fundraiser.
Awesome. We are again killing it, Mike. It's so exciting to see all these donations come in. We've raised over $6,000 since we started this only 90 minutes ago, which is insane. And we're only $5,000 away from hitting that goal of $30,000, which would break a record to the best of my knowledge. So keep those donations rolling in. One more reminder, you can do that at lpmc.us/Reno Reset. And there you can give a donation of any amount. We really encourage you to consider sponsoring a bed, a night, or a week in Reno that can help some delegates who can't afford to get out there to have a room to stay in. And that really makes the difference whether they can go or not. Awesome.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Lainey, but because we're at about the halfway point of the stream, if we hold pace and raise the same amount of money in the second half that we have in this half, we're going to beat the LNC, the National Libertarian Party's biggest fundraiser of the year.
To the best of my knowledge, that is what we're set on track to do tonight. So keep those donations coming in. And like we said, there have been some really generous individuals who've offered to double every donation coming in tonight. So this is a great time to donate. I know I'm going to be donating a little bit here, and we're going to be reading off some of our biggest donors in a moment. So thank you all for doing that, and let's keep those going so we can hit 30,000.
All right. Thank you very much, Lainey.
Sweet.
All right. So I'm going to pull up. Oh, that's the wrong thing to remove. There we go. Now we've got Michael Rectenwald, the unwoke professor. How are you?
Great. How are you, Michael?
I'm good. Can you give the audience here, because we're streaming through Libertarian in Chief. That's about 60,000. Dave Smith's Twitter. He was gracious enough to let us a platform. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone? Who are you, and what are you working on? Let's start there.
Yeah. Well, I'm the anti-woke professor, anti-woke prof, and I was a professor at NYU for 11 years, and before that Duke and Carnegie Mellon, and I have since gone on to become an independent intellectual entrepreneur, as I put it, and I'm doing my own work and writing books and essays for the Mises Institute, so I'm working on a book right now. This will be my 12th. This book will be this is the Reno Reset. This book will be on the Great Reset, and I'm talking about the woke capitalism, in effect, is largely the topic.
Awesome. So I kind of have it before we get into the future of wokeism. I kind of have a general question for you. Like, I kind of call the ideological regime that we're under right now. I have a term for it, and I think it might be historically unprecedented. Progressive fascism. Like
that's pretty accurate. I think we're dealing with economic fascism, and we're dealing with liberal or leftist fascism without a question, and it's an international fascism, which is why I don't use the term fascism to talk about it, because that has all the connotations of nationalism and not only nationalism but racism and etc. This is a different animal in that regard.
Yeah, they are kind of racist.
Yeah, that's true, but they don't. Yeah, they don't claim to be. At least they don't claim to have any. There's no ethnocentric superiority claimed here, except that, of course, there's the downgrading and the demotion and destruction of the so-called white contingency. But yeah, this is a fascist, economic fascism for sure. That is, it is corporatism through and through, and this collusion between the state and so preferred corporations like the big digital corporations, of course, which is the leading edge of all this. That's the communications and ideological apparatus of the state. That's how they should be understood, and they're leading the charge. And I think we can talk about what the future of this holds.
Absolutely. So let's do that. Like, obviously, the wokeism has overtaken the universities. It's overtaken pop culture. It's overtaken Hollywood. I was in the theaters watching the new Batman movie a couple weeks ago, loving it. Then towards the end, they just, for whatever reason, had to throw in that the big evil of Gotham City is, these privileged white males, and I just couldn't help it. Oh, it was an awesome movie.
Until then. Yeah,
exactly. Until then, and so. But are we doomed to have are we doomed of a future of wokeism? Is the damage done to the young too great? Are they too brainwashed? Or do you see any opportunities budding out to kind of fight back and push back against this?
Oh yeah, there's a ton of resistance against this, and this is the real resistance. Is the resistance against this this kind of racial essentialism and this extremely deleterious idea about whiteness being this evil, and it's very ahistorical. This idea that everything that's ever gone wrong with the human race has been perpetrated by straight white males. It's a cartoon version of history, and it's going to fail on the ground. We're seeing already the culture wars. Basically, they are effectively being expired. It's expiring. So it's moving into a different register now. It's moving into an economic front, and that's where I'm focusing my own energies and analysis and attempts to stop it. As it moves into the stock market, as it becomes stakeholder capitalism, as it's being called, and the way they're driving it through the stock market with the environmental and social and governance scores, which are basically a subscription to this woke cartel, in effect. And this is a very damaging as far as property rights go, because you have basically you have a dictation to corporations on what you have to produce, what resources you can use, who you have to hire, basically anything, all the power of disposal that is typically accorded to property owners is being abrogated. And that's something that needs to be dealt with. It needs to be dealt with at a cultural level. It needs to be dealt with at an economic level. It needs to be dealt with on a political level as well. And that's where I think the Mises Caucus comes in.
Thank you so much, John and Broadfoot. I missed your first name there, but for your donations. So last question I have before I'll kick it over to Aaron here. Aaron is the host of the Decentralized Revolution podcast that we put on. I remember seeing an article from Jordan Peterson about a month ago when he renounced his position at Toronto University about how you know, there was one vestige left, or it seemed like there was one vestige left within academia, and that was the empirical sciences. And it seems that even that has been compromised.
Totally.
You know, what are you seeing on that front, and specifically with the inclusivity standards and all of that in hiring practices? Because I think a lot of people don't realize this.
Right. I mean, even the empirical and theoretical sciences are actually being they're being threatened by diversity, equity, and inclusion. Which is, you know, everything they say, by the way, these liberal or left fascists, everything they say is a euphemism for what really it amounts to. So it always sounds good, just like the socialists and the Bolsheviks made their revolutionary standards and platforms sound good, but it really comes down to slavery. So they're really attacking the real basis of science and all fields, really, such that now, and instead of competence and ability, what's being promoted is simply identity. And this is devastating, not only for the culture at large and for our knowledge base and our trust in institutions of knowledge production, but furthermore for minorities themselves, because it puts their promotions in a bad light. It makes everything look like it's based on a kind of a kind of affirmative action on steroids. So it is not good for anybody. It's definitely devastating for society, because we won't have any trust in our institutions, and we could have death by diversity in the end, because people's lives are at stake where some fields are concerned. And these fields should not be based on identity. They should be based on the fields themselves, on the actual standards of excellence. And so that's what's at stake.
We should say hi to Angela. I think you're on a layover. Is that right? We didn't think we would have time. You would be able to join us. So welcome. Tell us what's going on with you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm on a layover in Denver. I'm flying back home after a really great visit in Kansas at the Kansas Libertarian Party State Convention. All good stuff coming out of there. I'm really excited to see what they do next year. Really excited about the momentum of the party.
Definitely want to hear the bells ringing for the chair, the future chair of the party here. So
yeah. Let's help get some people out to Reno. Let's make it happen. Let's help get me elected so that we can see this thing through. This is the year, right? Like, this is it. And it is happening. We are the embodiment of that Ron Paul gif. Like, it's pretty crazy. I'm so excited.
So while we got you, I don't mean to put you on the spot, or Aaron, you know, fill in if she's stumped here. But do you got a question here for Rectenwald? And
actually,
go ahead. I've got one after you, Angela.
Okay. What would you like to see us do at the national level? Like, I know that you have particular interests, and you have some passion projects, and I guess really, how can we help elevate your voice and get the message out?
Well, I really not, you know, most of my interest in the Mises Caucus has to do with having a principled political contingent which is definitely always on the side of liberty, individual rights, property rights, the right of self-determination and bodily autonomy. All these things are vital. And I think this caucus stands as the only political contingent that is solidly behind these values and that will not compromise on anything, on any of these things. Because this is really the future of America, is depending upon these values being thrust forward and being visible to the public, something that can be believed in, with the corruption in both parties. I mean, we basically had a president impeached because he told the truth about another vice president who's a thief. So this is where our politics have devolved to. And it's certainly neither of these parties are redeemable at this point. So it has to be the Libertarian Party, and it has to be the Mises Caucus of the Libertarian Party that upholds these important and utterly essential values.
Well, I look forward to elevating your voice and your message from the national level, because I think that informing people and our candidates and people who are running on our under our banner, having them talk about individualism and private property rights and the pitfalls of everything that we've seen happen in academia over the last, well, quite frankly, 100 years, but especially the last like 5 to 10 years.
Right.
I think that's really essential. And we got to get that message out to young people before they get indoctrinated in the university system.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And then I'll add to that one of the things that's a real shame that's happened to the Libertarian Party generally is that if you go back and you look at David Nolan, you look at the founders of the party, you look at the founding vision of the Libertarian Party, it is to be a cultural movement. It's not politics for politics' sake. It's that we've got to get the message out. We got to get people thinking about these ideas, and from that downstream will stem the votes. And if we make it, I mean, there's a video of David Nolan himself saying, it's not about ballot access. It's not about the votes. Those are goals and those are good things, but that's not the core of what it's about. So how can libertarianism infiltrate the culture? And do you see that happening?
Is that to me? Yeah. I mean, I think it can, we definitely need to, have such voices. I think my own, but also, like Dave Smith and Tom Woods and other prominent voices in the movement, giving a clarion call to to the country and to the world at large about what we stand for, and to be real clear and principled on that, and to direct people to understanding why, in fact, our culture depends upon these values. That without property rights and the actual preservation of them and the protection of them at every level, what we end up with is some form of socialism. And this is very not only demoralizing, it's destructive. It will destroy the family. It will destroy basically the social organism that holds society together. That's how serious this is. It is not just economic. This is cultural, as you put it. It's foundational. It's the social structure that's at stake.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, I'll reiterate the point, but I think we're in an unprecedented time for libertarianism and the ideas of property rights and individual liberty and economic liberty and all of these things. I think we're at an unprecedented moment for them to become a cultural movement.
Absolutely.
Again, people don't realize the extent to which Dave Rogan texts Dave and asks his position on his position on issues. You're seeing Tim Pool. He was a hardcore Trumper and he was a leftist before that, and now he openly calls himself a libertarian, a left libertarian. But he openly calls himself a libertarian, and I don't think he means left libertarian in the negative connotation that some of us might think of it. You see Patrick Bet-David having Ron Paul on. You see Michael Malice taking pictures of Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and Jordan Peterson. You see Jordan Peterson interviewing Bob Murphy. Like, it's all over the place now. And again, this is just the thing that makes me so excited, because this is absolutely unprecedented. And I talked to you about this on the phone, Mike. Correct me if I'm wrong, but once we do this job, this might be the first institution in the country that shakes wokeism off, and I think there's a really powerful story in that. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, really
Eric July,
libertarianism is antithetical to wokeness, and I could get into why that is, but it's largely because we're not organizing ourselves on the basis of some sort of group identity and some sort of retribution campaign against the property holders and against capitalism as such. We are, I think, firmly against political capitalism and the way these corporations, endear themselves to the state and vice versa. And this is really where the corruption comes from. And this is also the basis of, I think, the left's disaffection with the system, as they would put it. And this needs to be made very clear that this is not what we propose, this is not what we stand for, and that we actually are the only force to break it up, because we understand the premises that are behind all this, and that wokeness is a corporatism. It's a way of favoring cartel members in the business community and also in politics and in our social lives as well. It's a way of canceling out non-abiding, non-woke, non-leftist orientations. And it's devastating socially, it's devastating economically, and politically, it's totally enervating. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much what I'd say about that.
I want to jump in here and say that I think that we need to make sure people understand that to differentiate us from when you hear culture, a lot of people think, oh, conservative Republicans. And as libertarians, we're not trying to craft a culture to make it be a certain thing. We want culture, society, family, all these different aspects of society to be left alone, to be what they are, as long as they are conducting themselves peacefully. And so we don't have a vision of, oh, like the conservatives, the boomers will say, they want the America of 1950. Some of that's nice, some of it's not. But as libertarians, we don't want the state to try to subsidize things that couldn't survive in the culture on their own. And we don't want the state to join with corporations and academia to do this. We're quite willing to let society evolve on its own without trying to make it something because we realize we don't have the knowledge to do that right. We're fighting the people who have a specific vision and want to herd everyone into that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we will be rejecting wokeism at the national level after I'm elected. And it's not because it's reactionaryism from the left. It's because wokeism is a state and, well, I guess cathedral, for lack of a better term, agenda that we're not kowtowing to. We're not going to be pressured by the state. We're not going to be pressured by corporatism. We're just going to be bold and principled libertarianism. And if that is controversial on its own, then we're going to lean into that controversy and we're going to have self-esteem when we go forward with our message. And for anybody who's like feeling, oh, I don't know, we should be sensitive to the needs of people. Rejecting tyrannical wokeism is a very compassionate and courageous thing to do. And we're going to do that because so many people have been bullied and socially ostracized and crushed by it. And really what we're doing is we're carving out a space for them politically and saying, you're welcome here. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care what your whatever, like we're libertarians and we don't expect you to do this, that, or the other because of, whatever you've got going on in your personal life. Let's just band together and celebrate, private property and Austrian economics and be politically literate and not worry about whatever, colors are on your t-shirt, things like that. Like that stuff has no place in our party.
Indeed, I think that's right, because I think it's very, if you really understand wokeism correctly, it's a totalitarian movement and it is state-driven and it is about total control. And as Aaron said, we're not trying to create a particular culture. We're not cultivating a particular idea of culture. Rather, it's about stopping the interventionism, stopping the state and even corporate interventionism into our society, and to have a space for civil society, which is not politicized. To actually, to my way of thinking, libertarianism is largely anti-political in the sense that it doesn't want the politicization of every aspect of our lives.
Absolutely.
That is a point that Jeff Deist really harps on a lot, and it's true. The more that you politicize society, it's the more that you divide society, because that's what democracy does. It appeals to the lowest common denominator, makes them fight over power, and then hate each other for those two differences. I think that's my father. Thank you, Dad. But that's what it does. It just by incentive puts us against each other. And now we're mixing cultural differences in with political differences, which is basically throwing fuel on the fire of that division to where people hate neighbors that they don't know. You know, like the days of well, the person that made the pencil, might have been somebody I hate. So, but I don't care because it's a market need, is like, they're trying to end those days, the kind of that purity that comes with the markets. And it's highly destructive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's exhausting. It's just exhausting to constantly be litmus tested by everyone around you. And are you woke enough? Are you this enough? Did you give to this cause? It's just like, please let me just live my life. I don't usually say things like I want to be left alone, because sometimes I feel like it sounds a little bit abrasive, but really that is the best way to say it. Like, just let me go about my business. I want to vote and I want to be free, and otherwise I just want to, do my own thing. Well, guys, I'm going to drop off here because I've got to go on
Any
quite
final
a trek.
statements?
Quite a trek. Yeah. Thank you everyone for donating. You are changing history. This is going to be the first major political party reform in a very long time, and I think it's really unprecedented. So thank you for being a part of history. Thank you for helping us make this a principled organization, and I'm super excited to see so many of you in Reno.
We're going to do to the Libertarian Party what Ron Paul couldn't do to the Republican Party. It's a much smaller party, but it is something nonetheless, and it's going to give us a base from which to build. And again, we have this unprecedented opportunity, and we can build from there. So thank you, Angela. Can't wait to go to Reno. Can't wait to vote for you. Can't wait to see the masses of people at that convention vote for you. Michael, we're coming close to the end of our time here. I'm going to be, tell us about your books and your website, and what can we look forward to from you in the future? I know you're doing some courses for Liberty Classroom as well as the Mises Institute, right?
I have some courses up on Liberty Classroom on cultural Marxism, in effect. I'm writing a book now. It's my 12th. It'll be on the Great Reset, but I'm going to take a really analytical, not hysterical approach to this. Just what it means, what it would do. What economic effects would it have? What social effects would it have? And I'm just putting the information out there. I'm not an activist. I'm basically an analytical thinker and scholar. So that's basically what I'm doing. It's michaelrectenwald.com is where you can find everything. I do writing and interviews and so on and so forth. Everything is at michaelrectenwald.com.
And I just put that out in the comments, and we can look forward to seeing you in Reno, correct?
Absolutely.
Hey, Michael, I wanted to say real quick, I'm glad to see you're doing well. I know you had a really tough bout with COVID a few months back, and I was really worried, and I was praying for you. And
thanks so much.
I'm really happy that you're here, and keep up the good work.
Thanks so much. It's great to see you guys. Thanks so much, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we are up to $24,717. This is incredible. Like, I've never expected this, to be honest with you. I don't even know what to say. We're bordering on 25,000, and again, if we hit $30,000, now maybe it's 31.2 or something like that. I'm rounding. My understanding is that the National Party, around that COVID video that they released, raised $30,000. So maybe it was 31.2, and maybe we don't hit it. Let's round. I don't know. It's 30 grand. But let's hit 30 grand.
I remember we talked a couple of weeks ago, Mike, on the phone. It's like, should we ask for 10? Should we ask for 15? And look where we are. So Laney's going to catch us up here.
Yeah, it's insane. And no matter, what amount we do end up tonight, this is an incredible moment. It just demonstrates how much energy there is in this movement and how people are really here to grow the party with both members and budgets. We know that this is definitely a record for Mises already, and we're just blown away by all the generosity. So please keep those donations coming. Again, everything you're donating right now is getting doubled. So your donation is making even more of an impact. Again, you can go to make any donation, but we highly recommend considering sponsoring a hotel room or even just a bed for one of our delegates. And thank you to all these donations rolling in. And with that, Mike, I'll turn back to you.
Cool. Yep. We're going to bring up a few more of our LNC candidates. I guess the one thing I'll just re-emphasize as part of our announcements is, as I asked Rectenwald there at the end, he's going to be there, and he is one of many, many honored guests that we will have at our Friday night party at the Reno convention. So even if you're not a delegate, you're going to want to come out. You're going to want to be a part of this. You're going to want to see the energy, and you're going to want to see the community, and you're going to want to see all of these people. I mean, basically it's a who's who of the Liberty movement. Maj Toure is coming out. He's already publicly announced that. Dave Smith, Tom Woods will be there, Michael Rectenwald, and many more. I won't give it all up right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, just to add to that, like you mentioned, we have a lot of amazing guests coming. For the people who donate in those top 70 donors, you're going to get to have this mystery VIP experience. We don't want to reveal what it is just yet and spoil that surprise, but it's going to be super fun, and you're going to be able to have a good time with some of those folks in Reno. And if you're not coming, you can still take advantage of it. We're also going to do a virtual one for anyone who's in that top 70 donors who's not going to be attending with us. So you can still take advantage of it. That's it for me.
Right. Thank you very much, Lainey. All right. So I'm gonna bring up our next guest. We've got.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to lurk in the background and post the comments and stuff, but I'll make more room on the screen for more interesting people here. So.
All right, cool. Absolutely. So we've got with us Linnea Gabbard. Linnea is running for the LNC Region 7 representative position. We've got Michael Rufo. He's running for at-large with the red face because he just moved down to Florida not long ago. And then we have got Todd Hagopian, and a special thank you to Todd for letting us use his Twitter, Libertarian in Chief, to stream this out. Really appreciate it. Really glad you guys are here. Thank you.
What's going on? How the hell is everybody? $24,000. I'm not gonna lie. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, me too.
Listen, I don't see why this can't touch 30, and I'm kind of looking forward to everybody pushing it to 30. Man, I really think that's what it's going to be. I mean, Todd, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're on pace for it, and I think we've got our big hitter coming up next. Not to take away from the big hitters run right now, but I think 30 is definitely reasonable.
And we've got all night, so.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of do the segment with you guys the same way that I did it with the earlier LNC candidates. We got a half hour. There's 3 of you. I'm sure we can fill it. I'm going to kind of back out, but the nudge that I'll give you guys is, what is your plans with the positions? What's your vision for the party moving forward? What kind of problems are we kind of solving? Why are you running and who are you? I'll start with Linnea.
Yeah. So my name is Linnea Gabbard, and I am from Arkansas. I'm running for Region 7 rep, as Mike said. I essentially, the leadership position I have now is the at-large for, I do have for my county executive committee and also the state. So I've been doing a lot of representation to different districts and individuals for, a few years now. I think one of the biggest reasons that the regional position appealed to me is because I feel like we need stronger feedback between up and down. Like there's so many things that people need at the local level that I don't know that they're receiving as much from, the LNC. Like there's definitely a communication break. I want to strengthen that. And I also want to strengthen my region, underneath that. That is my biggest reason, because I feel like sometimes with our regions, we have states who are being left behind. They're not on the level that other states in the region are. And I don't really feel like that is an acceptable way to continue if we want to populate all of the counties in each state.
Well, that's definitely an important point, because I think originally I was going to run for Region 8, right? But then I was like, yeah, I don't want to live in New Jersey anymore because it's a hellhole and it's a shithole. So I'm out. And but there's definitely a few states in Region 8 that kind of have that, like, hey, nobody really pays attention to us. What's going on? I mean, you can look at Vermont, for example, right? They're technically in Region 8, and it's kind of like they're kind of just floundering, right? They let Archie destroy the party. They let everybody ruin everything up there, and you got Olga doing an amazing job fixing everything that's going on in Vermont. But it'd be nice to have the region reps doing things and getting more involved. Now, I know Rich is phenomenal. Rich Bowen, who's also running for at-large, and he's done a phenomenal job since taking the helm there. But prior to that, just think about it. Like the Region 8 rep was like part of like the collusion to ruin everything in New Hampshire, right? So that region rep thing for you to do that's the right reason in my view. So, but because I'm moved to Florida, I said, you know what, I can do at-large. Right. So for those that don't know, my name is Mike Rufo. I was a state board member in New Jersey for the last 5 years. And I was the South Jersey region rep. And then I was also the political affairs director for the last year and a half, which being in Jersey, not being able to get out and do things and talk to people and shake their hands, it made it a little bit more difficult. But nonetheless, it was what it was. And then I decided to move to Florida. But having been a regional rep and almost like an at-large rep, so to speak, in New Jersey, because it covered a third of the state, and people from all over the state would be reaching out to me, I figured, I can do at-large. Coming down to Florida, I know plenty of people down here in Region 2. There's definitely people all across the country that I've gotten to meet over the years as a delegate back in 2020. And to be able to represent the membership at large and be able to speak to anybody in the country and understand that, hey, I know that your area is different, but I can help you bring a level-headed decision-making process to this and help give you the information you need without being an asshole. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what I've always done best. So I was like, I can do this as an at-large rep. And that's why I want to run for at-large. For those of you that don't know me, you can ask almost anybody in New Jersey, except for maybe like the 4 people who are really upset about the fact that Mises swept through everything. You can pretty much ask about anybody, and even the people in Florida. Like, I'm coming to the game. I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm not going to pick fights with anybody, and I'm going to take the high road almost every single time, but you're going to know I don't agree with you when I don't agree with you. And just because we're all Mises doesn't mean we're all going to agree all the time. But I can promise you it's going to be a civil conversation if I don't agree. And that's the one thing that's going to make it a lot easier is when we have, reps like myself or Linnea or Todd here as the treasurer that have the ability to communicate with each other without saying, oh yeah, well, I found out that in 12th grade you did this. We're not going to play those games with each other because we're like, all right, dude, I don't agree with you. Maybe we can find a different way to get to the same end road. But Todd, what's up, man? Talk to everybody. Tell them why you're running for treasurer. Tell them why you're qualified. I heard a couple people say you're not qualified, which makes me wonder. I don't know how that's possible. From what I understand, like, you're a pretty big money guy. You're a good businessman. Why don't you tell everybody what's going on and why you should be treasurer?
Yeah, so I'll start with qualifications, just to throw that out there. So I was a financial advisor and a bank manager when I was very young. Decided to go and get a MBA in finance after that. And since then, I've been working in the Fortune 500 for the last 15 years in senior management positions within 3 companies, including running a $50+ million business in Ohio for Illinois Toolworks and a $60+ million business for Berkshire Hathaway. So I have managed large teams. I now own a small company that has grown to $5 million over the last 2 years that owns 3 different businesses underneath it. So I've managed big teams, I've managed small teams, I've managed large budgets and small budgets, project-based companies and non-project-based companies. I have an MBA in finance and I've worked in banking. I am a treasurer of a state party. I have been a treasurer of my own campaign. I'm qualified for the position, so we'll just throw that out there. Now let's go to what I'll actually do with the position. Originally, I had just started talking with Angela about what she wanted to do and helping her look at the budget and talking through different ideas. And I was having a lot of fun. And then when Angela and Mike kind of came to me with this idea, I thought, wow, that might make a lot of sense. And more for the fact that Angela's vision of having this long-term plan, long-range plan with different goals and objectives that we could then budget towards really resonated with me, because that's how we do it in business. We lay out the objectives. We then come up with the plan to drive those objectives 5 years out. Even if you're sure that there will be turnover in the next 2 years, you still manage a 5-year out plan. And those were all the things she was saying. So I was really excited about that. Over the last 6 months, specifically over the last 4 or 5 months, maybe, it's become clear that there's actually financial mismanagement in the party that needs to be dealt with. And so now it's even more important to do what we're doing and to bring this CFO approach rather than the accountant approach, which is what I constantly preach. The CFO approach looks at numbers and analyzes them rather than reports them. Instead of just consolidating them, they come up with recommendations. Instead of just putting out a budget, they put out a budget and show how those specific budget line items are going to attack our goals and what it's going to do going into next year and the year after and the year after. So strategy and implementation is what I'm going to bring to the table.
Todd, I don't know if you saw in the private chat, but do I have your permission to make a joke in the chat to at your expense to drive a donation?
Hey, anytime.
Okay, cool. All right, continue, guys.
Yeah, so I think on that note too, one thing that I've really enjoyed out of talks with this new LNC slate is concrete ideas like that. Like instead of hearing continually like we have like, you know, we need to operate, we need to the infighting or the you know, we need to do this and that better generally. We actually have concrete ideas. Like, and that's kind of what drives me, because I want objectives. And I think most people do too. I think the one of the biggest things in the party I've seen is it's really hard to get people engaged because they don't know what they can offer, because we literally don't have any objectives for anybody. Like, I mean, you know, the most action that a lot of people see is emails from the Libertarian Party, but they're general. They fundraise, but we don't actually, you know, a lot of people don't know how to get involved. Everybody they have a ton of skills, but nobody knows how to add those. And so that's one thing that I'd really like us to see do. And I've actually seen a lot of people discussing ideas for that. So I appreciate that looking forward. You know, like if we can have goals 6 months out that are actually concrete, I think that'll bring a lot more to the table in the trust that everyone can have for us.
And there it is. And it gets pulled up. There's a $75 donation across $25,000. I don't know if it was given to Todd's death metal voice or not, but in spirit it was. So let's drill into that. What are some of the specific goals? Because this is one of the big things that people, you know, we are on the inside where people don't realize the level of communication that we have with each other and how often our people are in touch with each other on pretty much a constant basis. And, you know, inside what Lene was just saying, yeah, we know that we've got concrete goals and what that looks like and what we want to do. There's a lot of people who are outside, though, who are like, well, you're going to take over and then what? Well, then what?
Well, we're going to, go ahead.
No, okay. Well, I mean, there's tons we could add on to, but just to, you know, bring to light something that I mentioned earlier is that like getting people involved, it starts with your county party. And one big thing I noticed as being an at-large is like no one knows how to run a county party. They don't know how to start it. They don't know anything about that. So like my first year into my Arkansas executive committee, I wrote our first essential like manual, like an affiliate manual, how to run that. And we were asked by National to submit that. And now the affiliate manual that they have at National is based on mine and a few others. And so we need more of those, more things to give people directives. Like we already have, you know, plans to do that with candidate things. Like I said, affiliate, county manuals, things that people can look up online and they can go, okay, I know exactly how I want to operate. I know what I can give. I don't have to flounder, you know?
I think that's probably one of the biggest things that National should be doing. It's always been a frustration point, operating local county affiliates, setting up county affiliates, and kind of not having that roadmap. Now I know there's a little bit of a roadmap now, and there's some things, but it's still not clear as to where you're going to get it from. People don't know where to look for their resources. Hell, I bet you most people don't even know who their at-large reps are, right? Like so I want to make it like the one thing that I want to do is improve communication, right? Improve communication between the LNC and between the state parties and the county affiliates, right? And I think for the at-larges, that's really where the at-large comes into play, right? I think that the at-large is that communication bridge between the LNC and your local affiliates or any member period, right? Like, yeah, your region reps are there, but your region reps are really working with your state chairs. So if it's just your general members or somebody who just needs a little bit of guidance and wants to pick up the phone and call somebody, or they want to send out an email, like I want them to know, like, hey, you got me, you got Rich, you got Steve and Nikayla, like there's a slew of us that are willing to step up and actually do things for you, work with you, talk to you, and help you figure out where the resources are and what you need to do. And for the at-large rep, that's the most important thing, right? And then just be a good, strong face of the party, right? Like Like, I feel like our at-large reps almost hide, so to speak, outside of Josh, right? Like, which at-large rep is trying to be a public face for the party? And I think that's kind of the role of the at-large rep, is be a public face for the party and be somebody that people know they can come to you if they need something from you, be it media, membership, whatever it may be. Like that needs to be the position. And it's just not happening in the at-large position. They're just hanging out in the emails.
One of the things that I really like about the at-large position is it's really undefined what the role of an at-large rep is. And I think what that allows people to do is maximize their strengths and play to their strengths. And you know, that's really important because that's where people thrive. And yeah, I think that's a really important role of that. But Todd, what are some of the concrete goals? And, you know, I know you said you're down to talk about the line of credit. Maybe that lines into it and some of the off vision that you plan to change.
Sure. So most of my goals are surrounding answering a few key questions that most members or prospective members have. And when you're talking to folks online who haven't been members or who won't be members anymore because of XYZ, the most common thing that you're going to hear is, where does my money go? And they're wasting it on this or that or this. Everyone seems to be an expert on what the party is spending their money on, but most of the time they're not right. And the party will defend itself by saying, well, everything's public, the budget's out there, this and that. But when you dig into the budget, what you find is that 40 to 50% of the budget is not very easy to tell what that money is being spent on. And the audit has even called this out over and over again, that our party has done a terrible job at putting specific amounts of expense to the different projects so that that gap principles are followed and people can actually tell how we're spending our money. So one of the things that I'm going to pledge to do is make it much more transparent. Your $24 annual membership gets you $18 of this and $6 of that and $4 of this. You know what I mean? So you know what percentage of your membership is going towards affiliate development, and you know what percentage of your membership is going towards fundraising, so we can do more things and things such as that. So that's one thing. The second thing we need to get better at is budgeting in general, so that we don't run into things like we've had this year, where we've had cash crunches, emergency credit raises, and things like that. Right now, they budget, let's say they're going to do $1.8 million of revenue, and there's 12 months. They budget $150,000 of revenue a month. Okay, it's called straight line budgeting. No business in the world that is of any size uses straight line budgeting, unless you basically sell Kleenex or toilet paper, something that's used no matter what the economy and what is going on in the world. Okay, there's seasonality and cyclicality to every business. And so when we come at the LNC and say you're missing budget, they'll say things like, well, the first quarter is always slow. All right, that's why you budget it that way. If the first quarter is always slow and that's the cycle, then you budget it that way. And then you don't all of a sudden have this expense that you need. So you don't approve an extra $50,000 of expenses when you know the first quarter is going to be slow, and then you have a cash flow crunch. And then you definitely don't have a midnight vote to try and do a home equity credit line, you know, in the middle of the night to try and get this all taken care of and spend an extra $85K that's not needed for the predetermined expenses. So those are the kinds of things that once you are more transparent and budget accordingly and actually look at cash flow, you can avoid going forward.
I think I speak for a lot of members when I say I really hope that my membership dollars are going to a 4-print newspaper that has all of the trappings and nostalgia of 1994 when I was watching Rugrats. You know, that's what I want. Yeah, Todd, you sound pretty unqualified, Todd.
That brings up like a really good point, Mike. I love the way you did it, but let's like kind of modernize things a little bit. Let's actually appeal to younger people. I kind of feel like this is silly.
I'm sorry.
Right?
I'm sorry. I got to cut you off. Todd's mug is bigger than his fucking head. That's crazy. That needs a donation. Todd's gargantuan mug. Sorry for cutting you off. Go ahead.
Nah, that's great. No, I just think, and that's the other thing. Like everybody is so bent on like appealing to the older, already established people. Like all right, it's about getting voters to vote for us, right? That's what everyone's going to tell us. We need to win votes, right? All right, cool. How about this? I don't want to win the votes of the people who've already made up their minds, and I'm tired of appealing to those people. I want to appeal to the people who are pissed off, angry, and disingenuous and disenfranchised from the system that are looking for somebody else. I don't want to look for the people that are looking for the new Democrat Party, and I don't want the people that are looking for the new Republican Party. I want the pissed off, angry people who want to flip the chessboard, not get a seat at the table. But we're by not appealing to those people, which is what the LNC just doesn't do and what the messaging doesn't do at all. We're just leaving 60% of the voting population to just flounder on their own and letting them know, hey, we don't care about you either, where we could be focusing on them, increasing vote totals and winning that way. I don't think we need to appeal to Republicans or Democrats. Let's appeal to people who actually think like us.
I think it's a great point. If you look at maybe the last 3 times that we've tried to raise money as a party or as a caucus, right? The ones I can think of are the mandate ad, this money bomb, and then there was recently a ballot access drive, right? Which didn't get as much play. But the ballot access drive basically marketed towards today's Libertarian Party, right? Those are the people who have donated for years. They understand ballot access. They were the ones that were donating to this ballot access drive, and I think they raised in the neighborhood of 10,000. I don't know where it ended up. It was at like 9 a day or 2 before the end. The mandate ad, which went after current libertarians, but also people who were pissed that the Libertarian Party had not messaged appropriately during this entire lockdown period, was able to raise $30,000. And now this, which is all about changing leadership to the Libertarian and getting more people involved and new people involved, is raising 30,000. The amount of libertarians that are outside the party versus the amount of libertarians that are inside the party is gigantic. And those are the people that we need, the small L libertarians who haven't wanted to be involved because they haven't gotten passionate about it, but need to see some new life in the party. That's who we need to be going after. And I think that's what we're doing in Reno.
That's exactly. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Good. To speak to those kind of things, like the legacy media and the legacy things that we're doing in the party, like, I mean, for instance, that like the newsletter, I mean, it's like the antithesis of fundraising. Like it comes out, quarterly or what we like. If we had regular online newsletters, things would be timely. You could, people care more about things when they happen last week than we do 3-4 months ago. So, I mean, all of those things, it would be really nice to tackle and I hate to say throw out, but, utilize differently so then they actually serve us better in the future.
Real quick, just want to interject. Laney just hit us with $777, bringing us up to $25,879. We are now maybe $1,800 away from raising $10,000 on the night. I guess I'll just lead that into a comment of what you guys are talking about with the party's fundraising. It's crazy because basically they've done what I've been doing up to this point, and they just, here's my cause, please give me money. And I understand that that's like surface level, but you can tell there's not a marketing professional, because look at what happened now that we have a marketing professional, running this and pushing this forward. And there's a lot more innovative ways to raise money. And that, our candidates that need the ballot X support deserve that expertise and that professionalism in order to, get results like this in this kind of time. So thank you, Laney. And, looking forward to bringing up these professionals.
And that brings up a good point, right? Like our messaging, right? Because that's just me, right? Like that's what I care about. That's like our social media messaging, whether it's the newsletter or whatever. Like you don't need a newsletter because you've got social media, right? Like the newsletter is dead, right? Like we don't need that anymore. We could utilize the tools in social media to be able to get out all those same ideas and all those same messages in a way that people actually care, that they're going to pay attention to, and you're actually going to grab their attention. I can't tell you the last time I've actually read a newsletter that came to my house, but I can tell you how many times I've watched a 30 second or 45-second video, right? But we don't utilize the technology. We're not using those things. And I know that's part of the plan on what we want to do as an LNC moving forward, is to get those technologies to be utilized in a much more efficient manner than they're being used now. So if you guys want to make sure that we can do that, though, the problem is, like, we haven't really hit that $10,000 mark for the day yet. So if somebody else wants to throw in some more change, you should probably do it right now. Because if you want that hardcore messaging, we just kick up another $500 just there, $400.
$300 from Todd here. Actually, I didn't even see him move to hit the buttons. It was pretty nuts. And that put us over $26,000. Todd's given us his money. He's given us his Twitter. This dude is dedicated, man. Thank you.
Listen, I'd love to see this thing hit 27,000 in the next 6 minutes, so that we can at least say we did a good job here on this video. But I don't know. I don't think any of you have it in you, right? Like you gotta, like, somebody's got to hit the button. Let's get like 5 people, put in $150 each, and let's get us up around that $27,000 number, so that we can tell Dave that we set it up for him nice and easy. We put the ball right on the tee for him to get to 30, right? We don't want him to think he actually did it, right? Like, because Dave, who's Dave? Like, what? He's nothing, right? Like, he's a nobody. Just some guy who goes on Fox News once in a while.
I'll remind everybody that Scott Horton gave 777, and then heavyweight Stephen Kinsella gave $500. So, we'll see what Dave does.
Well, listen, Laney, what's going to be the biggest challenge for you getting elected in Region 7? What do these guys need to know about supporting you? Because I know delegate wise, that's like, I think that's one of our toughest areas, isn't it?
Yeah. So the good thing about
don't tell them demographic data, dummy.
No, I'm just saying, like, I just know certain people in that area, and I know. No harm, no foul, right? I gotta feel that's a part of the country where we got a lot of haters.
The good thing about it is I've built up a pretty good rapport over the years in general, just doing the party work Erin Adams and I have worked together great in the past. She spoke good words toward me whenever I was in Oklahoma. The majority of probably Louisiana and Texas is just me going to build relationships with them. We actually have a pretty great region. For all that anyone says, we work together well. Leadership's been pretty good as far as relationships go. So I'm not really that worried about it. I'm just going to go on merits that I've built. I'm going to, try to garner the respect and trust, and I think we'll be fine.
How about this? What are the states in your region so these guys know what friends they need to hit to tell to vote for you?
So it's actually a little weird because I don't know what's confirmed, but at the convention, it's going to be changing. I may be losing like 2 states. So confirmed, right now we've got Louisiana. I think Alabama is leaving, to my knowledge. And then Mississippi kind of was never a part of our region. So that's, even though they're in our area. So then Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. So
Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. So if you got friends in any of those states and they're going to be delegates, just start telling them about Linnea so that she can get the votes that she needs to be in Region 7.
And Linnea has nobody running against her, and she also has the support of the current LNC Region 7 representative. So
make sure everybody knows in those states. At large is one thing, treasurer is another thing, right? We get the whole pool of people voting for us. But specifically, when we have our region reps on these things, we want to make sure that you guys are focusing on where they actually are and which one of your friends need to support them. So just make sure that message is out there, because most importantly, they need to be there the day of the vote, right? Like they got to show up for their region caucus. So make sure they're showing up for their regional caucuses and they're doing what they have to do if they're going to Reno.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we have just a few minutes left here. Do any you guys all want to give kind of final statements, parting words?
Yeah,
listen, go for it.
There you go. Yeah.
No, but I just I do appreciate this is really cool to me because the caucus is actually what drew me into the party. I mean, I knew it existed, but like the sheer endurance that we've had, that's very impressive. Like if that's not anything to ride off of, I don't know what is. Like to be able to just have a few people at the beginning, like Mike, and then you this through no matter how hard that it's been, that's very impressive. And I can only imagine what that's going to do in the future. So, support us, and that's what we're going to do is carry the baton. So
I say Chad Lemoyne just gave, glad to have you here, Chad. Hotep and Build, thank you. And then Linnea, am I saying it wrong? Is that what that last donation was trying to say? Is it Linnea? I've been doing this for probably a year and a half now, and you never said anything.
No, so it's most of the time I'll try to correct, but I don't. It's Linnea, but
Linnea. Oops.
We're in front of like thousands of people right now.
Could have told us.
Jesus.
Hey, listen, I'm not blushing. It's 100 degrees in my house, and my wife refuses to turn down the AC. It's the one flaw of moving to Florida is that it's hot as hell. And my wife won't let me put the AC below 76 because she's Filipino, and it's got to be like tropical in the house all the time. So I'm doing my best with the ceiling fan here, guys. All right? I'm trying, okay?
Any parting words, Todd, the unqualified expert on finance?
I would just say, just in general, I think as you've seen throughout the night tonight and seen throughout the interviews over the last few weeks, this is a serious list of candidates, a serious slate that Michael has put together. We all have specific strengths for the position that we're running on. We've built networks. We're ready to go. We're ready to work together as a team. We're ready to work with the that aren't on the slate. This is going to be a caucus, a slate that gets stuff done throughout the next 2 years, and I'm just excited to be a part of it.
Thank you, guys. And one other thing I hope people see is kind of, between this stream that we just had and like the one earlier with the other LNC candidates, and even just with, Rectenwald and Scott, is that people can see the camaraderie. And I think there's something that we, the Mises Caucus, have that the Libertarian Party has not had for quite some time, that the Ron Paul revolution had. And that really is a culture and a community of people who are driven together. And that's the thing that bonds us and drives us forward. And that is what it's going to take if libertarianism and the LP is going to succeed. It's kind of been really something that I've realized in the past year or so, watching this unfold this way, is that, whether it's the LP, whether it's the GOP, whether it's the agorist strategy, or whatever the hell it's going to be, nothing is going to work without a community of people that actually give a shit about each other and enjoy working together, and music. But without those things, like, nothing is going to work. And we have that, and it's really valuable. So again, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was fun. Glad you guys could do it. Let's keep raising the money, though, guys.
Hell yeah. We need the bells. So I'm going to bring Laney up. I'm going to have to remove you and your hat, Rufo, and your glasses, Linnea. And I'm going to bring Laney up for one last update before we bring Dave on.
Amazing. Yes, this just keeps getting better and better. And during that last 30-minute segment, we did break another record. You heard me mention at the beginning of the stream that we raised more in a single day in Mises history on Friday, and we just passed that threshold. So in a single day, we've raised over $10,500, and things are still coming in. So again, we've got an amazing guest coming up. Let's impress him and let's show him what the Mises Caucus can do. And again, all of those donations get doubled. I also want to give a quick shout out, if that's okay, Mike. We've got a bunch of individuals.
We have a lot of shout outs to give.
We do, yes, to all the people who donated $777, which is quite a big donation. So thank you to all the people who generously did that. I'm going to read off a couple of the names here. Michael Crump, Clint Puller, Whitney Davis, Craig Strackman, Matthew Losby, and Scott Horton, the man, the legend himself. So if you want to be one of those donors, that'd be great. You'll be able to be one of those top 70 donors and have an exciting experience with one of our VIPs in Reno or virtually. So let's bring this thing home.
Thank you very much, Linnea. Or Jesus, lady.
All right.
It's on my mind. I'm like, damn, I've been saying this shit wrong for like a year and a half. All right. Thank you, Laney. And we will talk to you soon. I'm going to bring up the Christian conservative Tupac, Dave Smith. Thank you very much for joining us. And I gotta rib you a little bit because I promised somebody in the chat that I'd ask.
What?
How did the
That's not what I agreed on.
How did the basketball with Big J go?
I dominated. I didn't miss one shot. What are you talking about? I never said I was going to go. I was very clear.
It's good. We're not all cut out for athletics.
No, I'm a way better basketball player than Jay or Lewis. I just didn't want to go. What is this?
Fair enough.
I thought this was...
It's me paying a commenter back.
Oh man,
we're here for the people.
I always knew you were the real cult leader here. People say it's me, but everyone's
people have no idea. They'll see soon. But thank you for joining us tonight, Dave. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about you know, what we want to talk about, and you know, I think a big part of what we should talk about is I kind of made mention of this earlier is, you know, the future of the party and the future of the caucus, and you know, what role does the Libertarian Party play in a healthy liberty movement? Like what is its function within the liberty movement if it was operating healthy, and what do you see that as, and how can we work towards that?
Well, I mean, at the very least, right? I mean, this is like there's a lot of like opportunities and options in today's landscape, but at the absolute bare minimum, right? Like you would think that what the Libertarian Party would be here to do would be to let people know what a libertarian is and what our position is, you know, like at the very least. And that may seem like not that important of a thing, but to me, it's actually like an incredibly important thing. Like the idea that, you know, like me and you talk about this a lot, and it's something we really see eye to eye on. The idea that the enemies of liberty are constantly perverting the language. You know, like this is a huge part of their tactics, is that whatever, you know, this is why even little things that seem silly, like silence is violence or something like that. Like, no, that's a really powerful thing. Even something like microaggressions, you know, redefining what an aggression is. They're constantly doing this. And if we just can't even let people know, no, this is what the libertarian position is. This is what a libertarian is. And they have these ideas that are, you know, if you were just paying attention to the Libertarian Party over the last decade, you would have these wildly, you know, different ideas about what it means to be a libertarian than what we believe it is. And so at the very least, I think if there's going to be a party with our name on it, that in itself is worth fighting for, to make sure that they're representing our name the way it's supposed to be represented.
Yeah, and you know, that brings me to a point, because even in some of our libertarian circles, you know, I've seen, I mean, they probably wouldn't call it this, but I see a resignation almost. Like, you know, I see some people in libertarian circles who are like, well, you know, maybe the word libertarian has outlived its usefulness. And, you know, some of these people are people that I love and respect a lot. And, but I don't know, man, I just find that to be crazy, because like, if we understand that we're going to have to be a cultural movement to progress forward, well, one of the mainstays of culture is language, you know, and we have one very little linguistic domain from which we can stand and build our base. And that's got to be the thing that we drive forward into the culture. And I think maintaining who we are and what we are with that title, because a title is, naming something is the thing that makes it real, you know, and that's how we're going to have to take that linguistic domain, build on it, and drive forward. And you're on the cutting edge of that.
Yeah. And look, I'll say that there's been some of the people, and these are people who I have, you know, tremendous respect for. I know there's some of the people that you're thinking about in when you just said that, but I don't think there's anything I don't think there's anything wrong with naming them, because they've said this publicly. And as I said, I have tremendous respect for these people. But look, Jeff Deist and Hans Hermann Hoppe have both not necessarily said that we should abandon the term libertarian, but certainly questioned whether this term has outlived its usefulness. Is it getting to a point where it's so meaningless, like the term liberal, you know, became? Is it getting to that point where maybe we just shouldn't even use this anymore? And to me, I just look at this and go, wait a minute, hold on. Are we going to pretend that the Ron Paul revolution didn't just happen? Like that we didn't just see the one time, and this is kind of, I think, right at the heart of our project here, right? Is that, look, if you think about from our perspective, like the best of what it is to be a libertarian, like that real libertarian shit, who has ever stood on a stage in front of millions of people and really expressed it? Who? One guy.
I would argue in the way that he did it, Ron did it, but I think you could also make a case. She's not libertarian per se, but Ayn Rand, Milton Friedman, like they got a lot of mainstream spotlight. But yes, Ron stands alone.
Well, look, even Milton Friedman, the truth is, was not like of the libertarian shit that we're talking about.
Correct.
You know, Ayn Rand, yes. Okay, so let me rephrase. In the last 40 years, who's
in our lifetimes, yeah.
Right. You know, like in since we've been alive, honestly. I mean, okay, maybe I don't know when Ayn Rand on Donahue was in, I think, the 70s, right? But okay, I'll grant you that. Since then, who's done it? It's Ron Paul. He's the guy. Well, look, so you have Ron Paul. He gets up there. He's the one time that there's a candidate who's really representing, I mean, I'm talking about hardcore libertarian principles to the masses in a serious way with someone who really knows their stuff. You know what I mean? Not like some of the goofy kind of radical, you know, candidates that unfortunately, you know, our party has been too accustomed to running. And when he does this, it generates enormous interest. Millions of people are converted. You know, tens of millions of people are interested. The entire Republican Party was influenced by this. I mean, they freaking became rhetorically the anti-war party after this. Not, you know, they don't govern that way, but still, that's something. You know, their base cheers now when you say end all the wars. People got interested in monetary policy. It was this huge phenomenon. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who get frustrated and say, yeah, but it didn't work. Everything wasn't solved. And it's like, yeah, well, this was step one. This was like the first time it had ever been done. And then in 2012, it was way bigger than it was in 2008. And now I look around and I go, well, look, every time I go on big platforms, you know, we generate a tremendous positive response. You know, me and you go on Tim Pool and we're talking to millions of people, overwhelmingly positive reaction. I go on Rogan, I'm talking to tens of millions of people, overwhelmingly positive reaction. All these different platforms. And it's like, why would I be abandoning this word instead of reclaiming it? Like, you know, when Rothbard in the 90s, like in 90 and 91, when Rothbard left the Libertarian Party and started identifying as a paleo-libertarian, you know, if you go back and read those pieces, part of what he said was like, we're completely outnumbered here. You know, they wanted a term that kind of differentiated them from the kind of libertines who were watering down the idea of libertarianism and associating it with all of this kind of like nihilism and degeneracy and all of this stuff. And he was like, well, look, we're a minority. We're a small minority here. So we're just going to call ourselves a different thing and go try to influence a different group of people. But like, why should we do that now when we're the overwhelming majority? And I don't just mean that we're the majority in the Libertarian Party, which we are now, but if you take all of the Ron Paulian libertarians who aren't in the party and include the Mises Caucus with that, we're like it's like they're a little speck and we're a sea around them. Why would I let why would we cede our word, Rothbard's word and Ron Paul's word, to a group of people who we have way better arguments than, way more numbers than, way more influence than? It just seems to me like, no, this is the time to fight for this and take and really take, you know, the steering wheel, which is what we're about to do. And I'm excited for what this is going to mean. The idea that there could be a viable third party that's actually telling the truth, that's actually putting things forward in a way that's serious and compelling and can really change the narrative of what the other two parties have to talk about now. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. That's really exciting.
This is why you're the messenger and I'm the organizer.
Well, that's the thing. I've been involved with the LP for 10 years or so, off and on. And we spend a lot of time debating about how to package the message and thinking about, oh, well, if we say this, what are people going to think of us? And a lot of us, you know, the Gary Johnson years, you know, we want to look good for the, you know, the mainstream corporate media and the way things used to be. But what Ron Paul did, and what I think we're trying to do with the Mises Caucus, is not obsess about what we call ourselves or how we're going to be perceived, but just preach the message, right? Just tell people what they need to hear. And that's why I think, you know, Dave, you talk about getting a good response in places. I mean, I got to think that's what gets the good response, is that you're not posturing, you're just speaking from the heart about what libertarianism is, which is, you know, you've described it as this beautiful political philosophy that a lot of people don't know about because we haven't been bold enough to tell them.
Yeah. Well, no one knows it. I mean, like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, no one really knows this. And that's what's exciting about it. And of course, like, if you really have it, it's so strange because it's like, if you really believe this shit, and that's basically, I think, the essence of my strength is that I really believe this shit, you know? Like that's and people can read that on me, that I'm not like putting on some act here. Like I'm telling you what I really believe. That doesn't mean I'm right about everything. I just happen to be right about everything. And since I'm right about everything, it's, you know, and all of us are. We're right about this. This is correct. Libertarianism is correct. We have the correct diagnosis for these problems. And if that's the case, then of course, wouldn't you be confident that that's going to be compelling when people hear about this? And this is something that, like, you know, some of the people who have gotten like frustrated and moved away from what we're doing here, who like used to be a part of it and are just like, well, now it's all hopeless and stuff like that camp. And they'll say things like, look, everyone's already heard about this and they've decided they've rejected it. No and way. I just think that's like, it's so insane. It's so insane to think that. Like literally go stop your random person on the street and ask them like, what do you think about Austrian business cycle theory? Or what do you think about the genocide in Yemen or whatever? It's like, they've never heard of it. That's the truth. I'm not saying like, I bet that guy's never heard of it. I promise you that guy's never heard of it. I promise you that guy, you know, and the one time we had Ron Paul up there, it generated all of this interest. And I'm out here constantly, like, this is what I do, you know, I'm always like introducing this to people who have never heard of it, and they get interested. Now, I'm not saying 100% of people, I'm not even saying the majority of people, but there are large numbers of people who can be brought over to our cause. So what are we going to do? Not try? When we're up against the threat that we're up against right now, you know, like these like evil maniacs are controlling society, and we have the best opportunity we've ever had. What's your answer? Not attempt to go for it. So I just think this is obvious to me, and it's the old Ron Paul lesson: tell the truth.
Right, and that's the thing, is it's not something mystical and magical and individual to Ron, so to speak, that made him have that effect. It was those characteristics. He just told the truth. He was consistent for 40 years. And you know, anybody can embody that. I mean, I don't know if anybody will ever quite embody his, like, you know, country doctor, just, you know, his good natured and all that stuff. But my point is those are things that are timeless. And that's what's drawing people to the caucus, is that we're just following the same blueprint that already works. And that's how we're looking at it, is that Ron laid the blueprint. And we have the benefit now of, there are so many young people who never experienced a liberty movement that was powerful and growing, and you know, they might have been too young for the Ron Paul thing, and you know, we are the old people now. It's friggin' weird. I'm 32 years old and I'm the old guy now, and you know, but we get to be all of the sprouts from that can then plant more seeds with that many more people and go exponential, because of the fact that the media is not the monolith that it used to be.
Yeah. And man, Michael, this is like where I got to give you a lot of credit for this, man, because I'm just like so fucking proud of you, dude. And especially like seeing that everything tonight, and like everybody involved in the Mises Caucus. But I'm really so fucking proud of you, dude. Like I remember the first time I ever heard your voice or heard of you was on the Tom Woods show in 2017 when you did that. And it got me really excited. Like I was like, God damn, I really love what this guy is saying. And it's funny, I just recently went back and listened to that podcast.
Oh, I hate doing that.
Well, no, but it was cool, man, because it was like going back to like, oh yeah, well, how did I get like so into this whole Mises Caucus thing? And by the way, there was nothing. There was almost nothing. I think there was one point in the interview where Tom asked you, he was like, well, the current chair really kind of sucks or something, and you were like, yeah, it's not good. But the whole thing was just about. It wasn't about like any of the fucking enemies, the loser brigade, anything like that. It was all just about what your positive vision was for what the Libertarian Party should be and how it should be the continuation of the Ron Paul revolution. And it shouldn't look like Bill Weld. It should look like Ron Paul and all of this. And I heard that and I was just like, man, I just love what this guy has to say. And then I had you on my podcast and I loved what you had to say there. And I still didn't join for like another year or something. But then a year later in 2018, I joined. And then I didn't really get as active until like 2019. And then really after the 2020 election, I was like, okay, I'm doubling down and we're really doing shit here. But it's incredible what you've created here, man.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
I'm praising you. This is the part you let me go.
No, that's exactly where to cut you off. Thomas Fitzsimmons for $420. So we're now at $28,220. And again, if we hit $30,000 here tonight, Dave, you saw that ad that the party had put out, that promo video for like the COVID regime, and they did a fundraiser off that. They hit something like 30 grand. It might have been 32. I don't know, but we're calling it 30. And we're going to beat the national party's biggest fundraiser of the year if we raise just $1,800 more dollars.
In a much shorter period of time.
Since Friday.
Yeah. Well, let me just finish praising you on this, because I'll tell you that like I really number one, I would say that one of the things that got me so excited about what you were saying when I first heard you back on the Tom Woods show was that I was kind of in this weird position where I was brought in the Ron Paul movement, and it was such an exciting time for people who like remember back then. It was incredible. So I was brought in then, but I wasn't like anybody. I was just some guy. I just started doing stand-up comedy, and I was just like, oh, okay, I love these ideas, and I'm obsessively reading about them. And then like around 2012, I started doing Part of the Problem. And then Ron Paul retired from Congress the following year, and then it was like and then I started like building an audience as the Ron Paul thing started dying out. And as I was getting like a bigger audience, it was almost like the movement had completely like settled down, and I was like, so now I'm bigger, but the movement is way smaller. And I was always rooting for the Ron Paul part 2. Like, when are we going to have our next libertarian moment? And dude, you really created that. And like, you deserve a lot of credit for this. That one of the criticisms that gets leveled at you and the Mises Caucus from the critics in the Libertarian Party is that there aren't regular elections for who's the chair of the Mises Caucus. Like, they go, Michael Heiss, he's the chair for life or whatever, and how are you going to vote him out or something? Which totally makes sense if you're a democratic socialist. Like, that completely makes sense that would be your criticism of the Mises Caucus. If you're a libertarian, it doesn't make any sense at all. But the truth is that it's almost like you have to explain market forces to these people, which you wouldn't think you'd have to explain to libertarians. But the reason why you have this position is because we all believe in you and love you. And like, that's why, like, and like, look, dude, it's the same thing I have. Everyone could stop listening to me tomorrow, and I have nothing. I have no power over them. I wasn't elected to this fucking position of biggest libertarian podcaster, but I just have to keep convincing them that this is worth listening to because they want to hear what I have to say. And you've really done an amazing job. I mean, look at this, dude. This is incredible. We're about to go take control of this party, and we're fucking. What was the goal that you set out to raise here?
30.
Well, actually, we started on Friday at 7,000, and went past that, and here we are. Hey, Dave, I wanted to get your opinion on something. How you feel about what you talked about at the Take Human Action Bash at the Pennsylvania Convention, like more than almost a year ago. I think it was last May. Talking about how to act toward other libertarians. And one thing I've already been looking forward to, and I know those of us on XCOM at the Mises Caucus has been like, we want to make an effort to not like dunk on people. And like, we want to bring as many people of the liberty movement into the Libertarian Party and keep as many of them. We're not trying to run anybody off who wants to work and do so in good faith. How are we going to do that? I know you gave a really good speech about that, but I want to see if your thoughts have changed over the last 11 months or so, and give us some advice on how we should act going forward, assuming the Reno reset happens as planned.
I was wrong. Let's purge them all. Let's get them all out. No, look,
Dave, this is live. Dave, this is live.
We're live. This is live. Yeah. This whole thing is live.
Yeah.
Even when I was complimenting Heiss, people can hear that.
Yeah.
I thought we were having a private Zoom call. All right. Well, no, look, I mean, I think that there are, like, I agree. I still feel the same way that I felt back then. I do think that what you said is an important caveat. I think it's people who are here to work. you know, and people who are really like there are a small handful of people who, yeah, we'd probably just be better off without, but they're going to leave on their own anyway. And then they're just going to keep bitching and moaning from the sidelines. And I think the best thing to do there is to just ignore those people. And they don't matter anyway. The same way
let me wade into that.
Sure.
Because the thing, I spoke about this earlier about how we have to be a principled libertarian party. We have to get back on the original founding trajectory that the party was set on. And they didn't have the benefit of the post-Ron Paul era and the post, internet and social media era and yada, yada, the post-media era, which is really fucking cool. And but the other thing, there's something that we need more than principle. We absolutely need principle. I'm not trying to make light of that, but we need character. Because that's the thing that made the friggin' Ron Paul thing so nuts. Is the character.
Oh yeah, of course.
And so, but and that's what we have to do. Now, I'm not going to tell people not to do anything. That's not going to work. The way I like, don't celebrate and all that kind of stuff. What I'm going to say is do your touchdown dance, but then there really is, the party really is made up of more than Mises and Sarwarks. There really is a group of people out there that have been here for say 10, 20, plus years who have just been getting the signatures and they just want people on the friggin' ballot and they just want to see the party do good work and they just want people to help them and all this shit. And, it's very important to me that we show them that, we're okay. Yes, we are taking a different strategic track.
Yeah.
We're shifting trajectory a little bit, but that, that vision includes you. Now, if you're a snake and you're here to drag everybody down and you're here to make this a clown show and you do that, fuck you. But then everybody else always been, and the people who are on the ground in the States know this.
Yeah. And so just to kind of answer Aaron's question, like first, it's like the way you do it, I almost think is like the same way that I was saying that like Heise brought me into this movement in the same way that I maintain my audience is you start demonstrating like, this is what look, there's going to be a lot of people and watch this. There's going to be a lot of people who after we grab the steering wheel of this party are going to be flooding in to the party from the libertarian movement. And I'm saying at the beginning from the liberty movement, then we'll be able to kind of like get bigger platforms and bring more people and convert more people. But you do this thing where it's like there are a lot of people who didn't really believe in the system, didn't really believe in voting, who are going to Ron Paul rallies and voted for Ron Paul because what he's saying is just so goddamn compelling that you're like, shit, I'm going to go with this guy because this is just so awesome. That's what you have to do. You have to tug at people's guts and spleen and insides and make them be like, yeah, this is inspiring me. And you do that by relentlessly focusing around the issues that matter the most. And that's what we always talk about. Opposing the COVID regime, opposing the wars, opposing the police state, opposing the spying apparatus, opposing the war on terror, and of course the war on terrorism that is now the war on the American people.
Dave, we are 4 minutes before the end, but we're also only $400 away from that $30,000 goal. Do you want to go another 10, 15?
Sure. Let's go till we hit it.
Okay.
And then to your point, Michael, I think it's important for us to realize that, like, sometimes it's like, I don't know, like, like if you were to use a war analogy, which is, I know, not the most libertarian thing, right? But like you might need in a war, like in an old timey war or something like that, you might need like the biggest, baddest dudes you have out on the horses in the front line. You know what I mean? But then you also probably need some really smart nerd in the back drawing up the plans. You know what I mean? Like there's like, you need all of these different people. And there are people like me and like you guys who are kind of like willing to like be on camera and take all the hits and say the difficult thing to say and get called all these mean names and stuff like that. But the fact that there's other people in the Libertarian Party who aren't the like, the like kind of, I don't know, deranged maniacs that we were talking about before, but are actually like, they're good libertarians and they would be supportive when we take over the same way as they would be supportive if we didn't. A lot of those people maybe won't be outspoken, but like you said, they will go collect signatures in the rain. They will do all this shit, and we need those people as well.
I think Laney's hitting us with an update here. You got to unmute. Hang on, I got you.
Oh, I got her.
I think I just remuted her.
Getting too excited here. It looks like we're about to hit this any minute. So this is incredible. One quick update I will say is that just in the time that, oh my gosh, And we just did it right there.
We should still go further because we already said we were going to.
Yeah, Dave, you're in for 10 to 15 minutes. We got you for that now. That is
incredible. Thank you, Jay.
There you go.
JR, thank you, JR Hasselhoff. He is a longtime supporter from Texas. He is the man. Luke Troxel, one of our organizers. Again, he puts in that groundwork and he's putting money in. That's incredible. Thank you, dude. Thank you to everyone that helped us. This is honestly shocking to me. Like, and like, I'm not bullshitting. I'm not like, ask everybody on the team. I can't shake it. I don't know if you go through this when you go to comedy shows and shit, Dave, but like, I still have this feeling that I can't shake of like, no one's going to fucking show up. You know what I mean? Like no one really cares. And like, it just blows me away whenever this kind of shit happens, man.
Oh yeah. I always do that too. Like after every couple months, I was talking to my buddy Nate Bargatze, who's like a really great comedian who he started before me, but we were like very good friends. And I said we always have this feeling where we go, I think I'm out of jokes. I think that's it. I don't think I'll ever come up with another one. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like if you just haven't written anything in a month, you're like, I guess I'll just never think of another one. And yeah, I feel that way all the time, man. Just things where you're like, that's probably the last big show I'll ever do. I'll probably never have this again. And but it's I think it's good. I think it's good to like stay humble and be like, appreciate this is really fucking cool what we're doing. We're really lucky to be in the position we are. I'm very I hate when people use the word humbled for something that shouldn't apply to that, but I'm really grateful that like all of the people like work so hard within my camp to kind of allow me to be in the position that I'm in. And I think we should always try to keep that in mind. I'm really grateful for everyone who donated and everyone who's working. This is really what's really cool about the Mises Caucus, and this is a massive team effort. And I've really gotten to see that as I've gone around the country to all these state conventions. And just as I go around the country and do my shows and stuff, I always have Mises Caucus people come out to everything I do now. And it's like, dude, this doesn't work unless everybody is like kind of doing their part and their role. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are doing roles sometimes that aren't that fun and aren't that like immediately gratifying and rewarding. But if they weren't doing that, then this whole thing doesn't come together. So it's really beautiful in the most like, eye pencil type of beautiful, decentralized way where everybody's doing this thing. No, it's all voluntary. No one's being forced into it. And what there's kind of like this weird thread that keeps all of us together is that we all really believe in this same shit, which is human beings ought to be free. And I don't know how to just say, there's something like, it's godlike how inspiring it's all that is to me.
That's what you're getting at. It's the belief is a faith. We have faith in humanity, and liberty unlocks the deepest potential of humanity. And we believe in that, and we have faith in that. And that's a word that I use a lot in this whole game that I don't really hear a lot of other people use, but it really is. It's a faith.
Yeah, I'm one of the most black-pilled people I know in general, just about life most of the time. But this has been really healthy for me to see, what we can do. Like when I, first messaged Mike on Facebook almost 4 years ago, I didn't know we were going to get this far. And every time I see somebody else come in and, just it is mind blowing. And we just need to keep that spirit going, and you need to show up to Reno. I'm always a little worried that something's going to go wrong, but if we all show up, we've got this money. All of our delegates are going to get there who could possibly get there. The sky's the limit. I'm really proud. I'm just amazed that we have this much in the way of resources to help us get this over the goal line. So.
And then I want to give one more shout out. Dave, if you said you went back and watched that old Tom episode, and back then, it wasn't as serious. Like everything wasn't as crazy as it is now. So like I had this gnarly beard, and you can kind of track how serious I'm taking things by like bringing that beard down. And my wife really appreciates you guys making this a serious thing for me. Like, yeah.
That's good.
That's really. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
No, I was going to say that's really what this mission has always been about. It's just trying to help Emily out a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So we said we were going to talk about this, and we didn't, and we got 12 minutes left. The the future. What happens after the takeover? That's the thing that I know. Again, we have a lot of internal chatter. We know what we're doing after the takeover, and but a lot of other people don't, and that cause them to be a little frightened, and they say, well, they don't have a plan, and what's the plan? Well, first of all, the friggin' party hasn't had a plan for a long time, but I would say our plan is, I guess I'll let the cat out of the bag. Fundamentally, what we're doing is Hoppian. That's always been the strategy and the goal and the core of this, is that we're arranging this organizational apparatus around the country. So like if Mike Rufo and Todd Hagopian and all that stuff, like all of these guys that we've had on here tonight, if we have the ability to elect them once now, and we have the ability to raise money like this, $30,000, $31,000, somebody hit me with 88 or 78, $31,000, since Friday, and we can get 250 organizers, we're no longer going to be strictly bound by the trappings of democracy to dictate the future of the Libertarian Party. We have an organizational apparatus that can kind of, let's say, guide those democratic results and therefore allow you to implement a longer plan. And that I don't believe has ever been done in the history of the Libertarian Party. I mean, right now the plan is something like, well, I hope we can bitch and moan our way into the presidential debates, and so our plan is to bring people like you, because there was a time when Rothbard was in the movement, in the party. All of the intellectuals were in the movement or in the party, and they were driving it forward. Those days are, well, they're here again now, but they've been gone for a long time. So the idea is that we elevate those voices, infiltrate the culture through the platform, national messaging, and then filter that down into local activity, building local level candidates, running city council races. They want to bitch their way into the debates. I want 5,000 city councilors, and mayors and sheriffs and judges and all this stuff. And so that we can have wide scale nullification. And then if, there is no, unfortunately, easy answers and silver bullets out of this situation that we're in with our liberties, and so it's going to take this kind of bottom up Hoppian, what must be done type of thing, MisesMerch.com, doing what must be done since 2017 design. But that's what it's going to take. And then the logical conclusion from that, if we can get that far, is secession. It is sovereignty for the states, and then going lower and lower.
Yeah. And one thing I'm looking forward to getting back to, over the last 7-8 months, 90% of our time on XCOM and it has been about Reno. And sometimes I lurk on some of the pages of the Loser Brigade, and they think that we're all about just like taking over the Libertarian Party because we just want to control that. Well, they're projecting there because they don't have a vision of what they want to do after we have a functional Libertarian Party. We want to get back to, like Mike said, getting those local candidates who have the strong message and who will nullify. And we want to get back to forming local and state level and below coalitions to roll back the state on, encouraging states and cities to nullify. So we're not going to, we're not about just running the Libertarian Party, off to the side. We want to put it in good hands, keep an eye on it, keep funneling our people to it, but also get back to that Hoppian local strategy.
Right. So like what I would say about this, right, is like, and I think you're absolutely right that it's like this kind of projection. I mean, I remember seeing a whole bunch of those guys were saying they go, they used to say like last year, they'd be like, if the Mises Caucus doesn't win, they're just going to all quit and leave anyway. And then every time we lost, we would just double down our efforts. And then every time they lost, they would all quit and leave the party. And you're like, who are you really talking about there? I mean, I'm not like trying to psychoanalyze people, but it does seem like you were talking about yourself a lot more than you were talking about us. So to your point, Michael, I think you're right when they say, well, what would the plan be? And you're kind of like, all right, well, first off, what the hell has the plan been so far? To what? Get 1% of the vote and hold no real political power and just watch tyranny grow more and more and more while you tell yourself how pure you are in your head? Like, okay, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be so afraid to give up on that plan. Or the party that sits on the most beautiful political philosophy is seen as a joke by everyone, including libertarians. Yet you're worried about switching the plan. Oh, okay, but here's what the plan to me really is that there's we have like a lot of very popular libertarian figures, intellectuals, personalities, things like this, who are very good at introducing these ideas to people, talking to people, persuading people, all of this stuff. I mean, we have people like, like Eric July has like hundreds of thousands of subscribers on his YouTube channel. Tom Woods, hundreds of thousands of downloads to his podcast. Michael Malice has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter. Huge audience. These are people. I mean, there's Maj Touré, and there's like a bunch of other people who I'm gonna forget. I apologize for forgetting to include you in this, but like there's a whole bunch of other people, myself, like a lot of other guys who are like these big. And the Libertarian Party has essentially been run the exact opposite way that every one of these people would say it should be. Like the messaging and the way they do things and how they use their Twitter account, everything, the candidates they put forward, everything has been the exact opposite of what every single libertarian who has a lot of success would suggest that they do. And so the radical, crazy idea that we have is like, maybe we should actually create something that the libertarians who have success at persuading other people would suggest we do. We're going to try to do that, right, from the top level. Like the idea is to put forward the messaging that actually works, which is what we're all talking about with like the Ron Paul revolution stuff. And then have an organized, dedicated base with chapters in every single state across America who's going to flood the local winnable races, so that you have this messaging from up top that's bringing new people in, and then you have this base that's sending them out with a mission of what we can actually do. Exactly. That's essentially, and to your point, the whole time really like attacking the culture in a way that libertarians have just simply never been willing to even attempt to do. To try to say like, oh no, we're actually going to try to alter kind of like the cultural norms more to something that we think is conducive to a libertarian legal order. And so that's our plan. And again, like you said, it's like, okay, it's not perfect. I'm not saying that this is going to like, oh, we'll be in a free country a year from now, but we've got a real shot to make some noise here and do something incredible. And I also think this can involve coalitioning with Republicans and Democrats and people from all over the political aisle on issues that they're good on. I think that there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to like coalition with some like DeSantis Republican on fighting COVID tyranny. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to coalition with like an AOC progressive on like decriminalizing drugs or something like that. We can do all of this stuff, and we will do that when we have an inspired base of people who are ready to fucking fight. And right now, this is one of the things that's really been demonstrated over the last year, is that the only group in the Libertarian Party who has that is the Mises Caucus. Yeah. The other people can bitch and moan all they want to and call us whatever names they want to, but it's like, where's your passionate, inspired base? That's why you're losing. Because you don't have, and if you don't have that, you have no chance of success anyway. So now what they'll say is like, well, we don't have that because of you guys. But come on, I mean, this is like, well, how come you didn't have it before us then?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll make one comment on what you said, and I think we can close out. This has been an incredible night. But as far as like, you're right, they haven't had a plan. They've never had a plan. But going back to the Hoppian thing, it's the democracy. The leadership changes every 2 years. Therefore, the strategic vision changes every 2 years. Right. And really, it's probably a year and 6 months so people can get back into those positions. How the hell could you ever? The incentive just isn't there to ever put, and incentives are what drive behavior. That's like one of the foundational Austrian insights, right? Is that incentives dictate behavior. And, that's what we're changing. The democracy is the problem. Like that is why there is no plan. And that's why we're doing this, so that we can organize in such a way to have a 10-year plan, and hopefully in 10 years, I mean, I will say this, the one thing I don't have is like, well, in the 10 years, I want 11,000 city councils. Like, I don't have it that granular yet, but like, that is the goal. The democracy is the problem. We have to sort of privatize the LP and run it like a business, so that you can have business-like results. And that's why these people who are like, you're the leader for life and blah, blah, blah. It's like, which one of these people, A, has ever opened a business? B, if you did open a business, say, the way to really grow this thing is to make it run democratically. That's just obviously the recipe for success. It's never happened, never will happen. It's a foolish idea. And I guess that's my comment. I really suck at outros. I got to figure that out. But
Well, and before we do wrap up, we do have a couple of really awesome announcements, if that's cool, Mike, just to make sure that we can do that. Well, the first one that I want to acknowledge is that we totally hit our match goal. So as we can see tonight, we didn't just raise that $31,000. We have another $7,000 in pledges. So we blew that 30,000 way out of the water. Amazing job to everyone. And not only that, we hit our goal or we broke that record of $15,000 raised in a single day in the Mises Caucus. So amazing work to everyone. That's a new record I'm sure that we'll be beating. And I know anytime now, we're all going to be sending all that energy towards the LP right after this Reno reset. One other quick shout out I would love to give, as Dave mentioned earlier, all of this doesn't happen unless it's a team effort. There's one individual who deserves a very big shout out, and I want to give that to Chase Venters in Texas. He's the one who built this money bomb tracker that we're seeing both in Discord and the live stream. And I think it made a hell of a difference. So thank you, everyone. And it's been fun seeing the names and the trolls coming across all of them.
Final comment from me is, Dave, that last monologue that you just went on, it sounds like the recipe for a successful presidential campaign.
Well, I never thought about it like that before. Hey, you bring up something. That's something to mull over, Michael. Perhaps the first look, man. The mission right now is get Angela McArdle elected to the LNC chair, and that's the most important thing that we should all be focusing on right now. So that's and the whole slate. But Angela is that's the most important thing. That's what's going to really send a message and change the trajectory of this party. And all of the Mises Caucus candidates, of course, they're all great. We have an incredibly talented entire team running for this stuff. But that's the most important thing right now. And then after Reno, you come badger me about all that stuff, and we'll start finalizing decisions. But it's going to be, I'll tell you this, it's going to be incredible, man. I am so excited for what the Libertarian Party is going to do in the very near future. It's just going to be awesome. And it's going to be a lot of fun as we fight to change the world.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. Our guest list, as you know, is insane. We've already talked about some of the people. You're going to be there. Scott Horton's going to be there. Michael Rectenwald is going to be there. Maj Toure is going to be there. Tom Woods is going to be there. And I guess that's the one last comment. I know some people put it in the chat, and I didn't want to focus on it, but I do want to give a shout out to Tom and say that we have got Tom's back. We are emailing the LNC. If you don't know, they're trying to cancel Tom's breakfast, and we stand with Tom. Scott has pledged to cancel his lunch speech at the convention if Tom is canceled for ridiculous reasons, non-existent reasons. And we encourage you guys as a final call to action to email the LNC and demand that they stop this chicanery and this ridiculousness. And we got Tom's back. We love Tom, and I've learned a lot through Tom, and I think all of us have. So we don't have to dwell on that, but please write the LNC, get them to stop this nonsense. And then other than that, thank you for your donations, and you can get your convention gear at misesmerch.com. And, we've got all kinds of sweet designs on there, including the aforementioned Hoppa Doing What Must Be Done Since 2017 design. Dave, do you have any parting words?
No, man, I'm just thank you to everybody, man. Everybody who's a part of this. And like I said, I can't wait. I'm excited. And yeah, fuck that. Tom Woods is the fucking GOAT and a legend. And he'll be speaking at our event. If they want to not have him at that breakfast, it's oh, okay. Tom won't speak at your breakfast, and instead he'll speak to 700 people at 8 p.m. and have a way better time and to give a way better, just a better thing. You guys can't these people it's this authoritarian mindset. You want to exercise control over us, but you can't because you don't have any power and you're not going to take out our guy. So that's that. Period.
100%.
And we do want to mention that that URL lpmc.us/Reno reset, that's going to be open I think another week till the 30th. So every dollar there, it's all going to go to convention mobilization. We may need to get shuttle buses from people who are staying at other hotels to get them to the thing. We want to be able to have those resources to make sure we can, meet the challenges that come up on the ground out there. So we have a lot more than we thought we have, and every extra dollar we will put to use.
Awesome. Well, Dave, really appreciate you being here and supporting us. This has been just an incredible night, Thank you to Scott, to all the candidates running, to Rectenwald, to Larry Sharpe and Shane Hazel for showing up. Make sure to go out and support them. Support your candidates. Get that message out, and take human action, and let's take this shit over. Thanks. Good night, guys.
See ya.